everybody, and welcome to the broadcast tonight for the Victoris Triumph Series. I am your host, Becky Rita, coming back again for the fall split. And with me today, you may notice that there are no casters here, because in fact, we are on the analyst desk, baby. That's right. We've got a desk this year. This time, for real, this split, we've got two of the brightest minds in the amateur scene here to try and make me look a little bit better on the desk. So, of course, we have Quintic and Kevbo, both new faces to the VTS. If you would like to introduce yourselves, lads.
Oh, an introduction. Okay. Hello, I'm Quintic. I'm a League of Legends coach, content creator. I like to study the game very deeply, and my hands have fallen off in the time that I've studied the game. So I have no hands, but a big brain.
You don't need hands these days. Sometimes you can get by
Exactly.
by just that's what Udyr was for, before
Right.
they changed him. All right,
Right.
Kevbo, what about you?
Hi, I'm Kevbo, master of prediction and Blitzcrank propaganda. Here, for some reason, I don't know, Gurf has me here, but should it be a very fun split. Looking forward to some high level League of Legends action. And Becky, as always, funny Becky over here.
Yeah? Yeah? Funny occasionally. But it's all right. We do our best to try and make this experience as good as possible, but uh sorry, I'm sending tournament codes. So I'm kind of distracted. If either of you would like to talk about anything else for the moment here, can you? So the VTS, this is sort of a newer league for the two of you. However, the rules are very similar to the other pre-made leagues. So, uh, if either of one of you two wants to break down the format, real quick while I handle this.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I believe it is round robin, best of three every week. Every team will play a best of three against another team. Going to be, I believe, 7 weeks of the regular season since we have we have 16 teams, so everyone's going to play everyone else once. Of course, you can't play yourself. And then I believe it will be the top four teams out of those two groups, based upon game score, that makes it into playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very very similar to the other pre-made leagues. Top four for each team will make it to playoffs. All the playoff series will be best of fives, as opposed to the leagues that have like a round of 16 or a round of 12. And at the end of the tournament, the first place will be receiving $1,100 of prize money, and the second place will be receiving 400. So there's quite a bit of money on the line for these teams, and the stakes are going to be high for them for sure. So let's not waste too much time here. Before we get into the featured match, though, there was, and we can come back to this. There was a patch. This game is being played on 12.16, so this relatively new patch is going to make sure that these teams, they've had a bit of time to try out some of the new patch adjustments. Things haven't really changed a whole lot. There were some minor champion adjustments, but champions that were good are still pretty good, aside from maybe Zeri. So that is pretty much about it in terms of like major patch changes. A few things I noted down here. Yuumi got adjusted. Has been super prevalent in the pro leagues recently. I don't. Neither of these teams that we have tonight for our featured match actually play the Yuumi. So will we be seeing a Yuumi? Is there a possibility? It's not like you need to play Yuumi to know how to play Yuumi. So
Right. So Yumi's nerfs were -2 seconds on the E cooldown. And then somewhere that I forgot to check, she got a compensation buff on the Q. So Yumi honestly was just one of the highest power supports in the game, right? That's hard to argue. So if she got a love tap and then a buff, well, it wouldn't be out of the question to see a Yumi. That said, like if neither teams are playing Yumi, Yumi deceptively does require some practice, not necessarily from the Yumi player, but from the team in terms of how they're managing their vision control if the support isn't able to approach the same areas on the map that they would ordinarily be able to. So, I think Yumi is absolutely strong enough to still be picked on patch 12.16, but if neither team has Yumi in their practiced repertoire, I would be surprised to see it.
Okay, I think that that's fair. Uh, Kevbo, you do a bit of bot laning, so I don't know how much of the game you've played yourself recently, but looking at the changes that we saw to Tristana and Caitlyn on the patch, how will these changes be shaking up the sort of not necessarily hyper carry focused, but the current bot lane metagame? Will we see
Yeah.
Caitlyn and Tristana potentially show up? Because I've been seeing a little bit of Tristana on the patch, and she looks pretty decent right now. So I'm curious as to your thoughts about the AD carry situation.
AD carry has been in a really good spot, I think, this season, especially. It's been very Zeri Sivir dominated recently, but before that, it was a huge and very nice change of pace. Compared to the Jinx Felios meta, that it felt like that's all we were getting for forever. Um, I don't know the exact buffs. I haven't been able to read the patch notes myself, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially a champion like Tristana, getting a buff, especially with a lot of the early game focus coming through for AD carries right now. I know we're seeing a lot of Draven, a lot of Callista, um, in the upper echelon of play. I wouldn't at all be surprised to see someone whip out a Tristana, especially because Tristana does have that power of flexibility that some of the other AD carries are lacking.
Yeah, flexibility can be very important. But before we can really even determine what these teams are going to be able to bring in, we need to know who's playing tonight. And that is going to be our featured matchup. You can see it, of course, in the title of the stream. Never mind, the title has not been changed from yesterday, unless it has not been updated for me. But uh, I'm, I'm getting sidetracked already. Okay, so tonight's stream, we will have uh, Divine Ascension Frostbite going up against CB Midnight. So two fairly prominent amateur league orgs stepping up to the plate for our first feature match of the season, and they've both brought relatively strong teams onto the Rift today. So, let's start with a little bit of action and a little bit of focus onto Divine Ascension Frostbite. This team does have it's about, I guess, average rank is around Diamond 3. I would say, judging based on the players, but that doesn't mean a whole lot necessarily in terms of this particular matchup because they're about on par with their opposition. So, what can we sort of take away from how, just based on what the solo queue stats show, because we haven't seen this team play yet? What can we sort of expect from this team coming into the game?
So I think, given that every player on this team has one champion that is noticeably their most played in solo queue, none of which are particularly standard in coordinated play, that we should expect to see this team fishing for some oddball picks here and there. We've got a Garen, we've got a Fizz, we've got a Nami without an AD carry who prominently plays Lucian, right? And we've got an Udyr who is disabled for the first 2 weeks of play. So, you know, most of those champions that I just listed can tend to have some impact if they're picked carefully, right? So I'm very curious to see how wild the draft gets from Divine Ascension Frostbite.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Based on what I saw, there were some really interesting picks that this team can deliver. Their mid laner plays a lot of different assassins. Their top laner plays Garen and Darius and other similarly glue eating champions. And we also have a member formerly of VRD fame, the higher draft league, Masked Hydra, making an appearance on the Rift today. I've watched Masked Hydra play in the VRD before, which is the higher level draft league, and put in some good performances. So I'm interested in seeing how Hydra will perform in a more coordinated environment, because draft and pre-made leagues are wildly different. What have you gotten a chance to look at this team? Kevbo, do you have anything you would like to add to this?
Um, Not necessarily directly to the teams, but the mid lane matchup, like you said, is going to be very interesting. I believe one of them is a big Fizz enjoyer, but they both play a lot of melee champs. There's not
Oh
really a
yeah.
lot of mage champions that either of these players have really shown that they play. At least from looking at solo queue now, we are at a high enough level that I would expect that they should be able to pilot several mage champions fairly well, but I would not at all be surprised to see a lot of explosiveness from the mid laners and possibly seeing if their junglers can pair up with them and get some work done on the map here.
Yeah, junglers indeed. And Hydra, does play quite a lot of Olaf. So Olaf's pretty big right now, especially with the powerful enchanters in the meta. So perhaps we could be seeing the Axeman cometh. But on the other side of the rift, we have CB Midnight, who, they have provided a very interesting team. They have they do have a player who is below diamond, but they also have a master tier player on their team. So they have a bit of an edge in that regard. So with this team, I think that they are very interesting, but my biggest concern with them is that there might be a top lane mismatch in terms of performance. I'm curious your thoughts on that, because there is a bit of a rank discrepancy between the top laner of uh, CB Midnight and the top laner of Divine Ascension. I have to keep looking at my notes every time I think about these teams.
Well, I think that definitely is one factor that could contribute to a very volatile game ahead of us. Um, the potential for CB Midnight's, master tier top laner who prefers very aggressive carry top laners, to take over the map with the help of skirmish oriented mid laner, aggro jungler. The potential is quite high, but again, we can't claim it's a sure thing because of the volatility of these champion pools. Like, it's actually to the point that I would be surprised if CB Midnight drafted a full team fight comp. Like, they don't seem to be set up in pool for a front to back. At best, they could do dive, although we're expecting mostly range supports, right? So, really, like, back to the point of your rank discrepancy, a primary win condition for this team could actually be just to skirmish topside over and over, generate a lead, draft a tempo comp, that sort of thing. So, I I wouldn't be surprised to see some action up there.
Okay, see a little bit of action topside. As a former top laner, you never like to hear that. You want to have your island vacation and not have to deal with people, and then suddenly everybody's top lane. So, maybe we'll have to see if that is the game plan. I do think that that is a possible option. I know Kongman on the VRS roster, the VRS staff, the VRS desk, is a big believer in top diff determining games in these leagues. So we'll see if that theory holds true. But there is also to consider, fan favorite, stream favorite Daydream in the bot lane as the AD carry is is. Should we be concerned about this potentially being an anchor for the team? No offense to Daydream. Should we be concerned about the AD carry being below par of the rest of the players in the game, causing issues for this team going into uh, the series ahead of us? Do you have a thought on that, Kevbo?
I mean, I think it's a little worrying. I wouldn't say it's nearly as worrying as that discrepancy, especially in solo lanes. We're gonna have a greater potential because at least in some ways, as an AD carry, you're going to do a lot of farming. You're going to be positioning well, and if you're positioning well in team fights, then as long as you're outputting damage and you're keeping up in CS, I don't think it really matters until later on in the game. But of course, you know, things happen. Sometimes you fall behind in CS. So really, I think it's going to be a lot on positioning. That's what I would be the most scared for Daydream, because I feel like the big difference between like plat 80 carries and diamond challenger level 80 carries is literally just positioning. Just knowing where to be and when and how safe you can play while also outputting the maximum amount of damage.
Yeah. Outputting the maximum amount of damage and the maximum amount of, yeah, what can be. I am sorry, I'm distracted here.
Well, if you're
Looking
distracted, I
at.
can provide an alternate take as well.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. If you
Um,
have an alternate, feel free.
yep,
Feel free to keep going.
for sure. Because if we are just concerned about like the rank differential in the bot lane, I think because it is the bot lane that it can be drafted around, right? We were talking about how the 80 carry is responsible for just putting out damage, but assuming that CB Midnight is going to go for the sort of like tempo skirmish topside style, I think it wouldn't be hard at all to put Daydream on more of a utility pick or something that doesn't require the same amount of resources. You could put her on like the Seraphine, which I've seen in pool. Jin, Ash, like anything sort of utility, and just as long as that lane is stable and can cover themselves, I don't think that should be much of an issue at all.
Yeah. Okay. I think that that is a fair assumption to make. That's a fair. That hopefully it won't make a difference for these teams. It would be a little underwhelming to just see an 80 carry getting run over, but I think that both of these teams will be able to provide a solid work around their win conditions and get to where they need to go. Because CB Midnight, they may have they have a very they have a different kind of. I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm so distracted trying to make sure this gets going. So, what can we? I also see that the support of CB Midnight plays quite a bit of Xerath. So, uh, will we see Xerath support? Am I coping? Is this a little bit of cope? Is there an angle to see Xerath?
I mean, there's always a Xerath angle, I think. It might not happen, we might not get the Xerath angle, but the possibility of a Xerath is there. He's not a weak champion, he's not a weak support as long as you know how to play around it. But it would require CB Midnight to invest more of the resources towards the bot lane because Xerath tends to create volatile lanes. And if that Xerath lane collapses, well, then your support is not really a champion at that point. So, possible but improbable for this series is what I would say, I think. But it depends on how draft goes.
All right. And so I believe we've gone over everything unless you have anything else you wanted to add Kevbo.
I think
X.
we're ready to get into the start of the season.
Yeah, okay. I'm ready to get going too. We do have some issues on our end to resolve in terms of production. So we're going to be going to a quick break, and when we come back, we will be in the draft, and you will not see our faces. You'll see the faces of our wonderful casters on the casting desk as they break down the draft and get into the first match of the series of the season for this split of the Victoris Triumph Series. Stick around. We'll have the draft after the break.
Hello, 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 hello. And just for good measure, hello. Welcome to the Victoris Triumph Series. Fall 2022 split is now underway. My name is Moose. I am joined here by TDS, and we're going to be your casting duo for this split. It's a repeat casting performance here for the VTS, and I'm so excited to get started.
We're going to have plenty of new things, but we're going to keep the same old duo, and that's going to work out perfectly for me because last split was a banger, and I hope that this one will be a banger as well, or even better than that.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. I think, things are looking bigger and better. Shout out to the
Yeah.
analyst desk that we had previously. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into our first marquee matchup of the split. Divine Ascension Frostbite versus CB Midnight. We didn't really get into predictions from the analyst desks, but they did give us some insight into what both these teams are looking for. I really quickly want to go for some of my information that I got. Really look for Divine Ascension to really focus in on their mid lane and their jungle pairing. They said that that is the chef's kiss, the mwah, beautiful part of their team. Definitely check out for that. And CB Midnight, it's the Daydream diff. What can I say? So definitely check out to see what Daydream's going to be able to do there as we take a look at the bans. Looking like we do have a little bit of mid lane, a little bit of support, and a little bit of bottom lane coming out from both these teams. Gwen, Karma, Silas, Nami, Fizz, Sivir are all going to be banned away. Seraphine locked in for the V1 pick.
A lot of logical focus that we've seen all throughout multiple leagues. So this is not coming out of nowhere. I think the Silver Band makes a lot of sense with how powerful she has been, although because of Seri's existence, you kind of consider both Silver and Seri potentially there. Now, because of Yumi's nerfs as well, she was not mainly picked at the start, but Seraphine is still quite strong, so that's why we're seeing her on the first big side of things from the AF. And then I'm expecting to see Yumi potentially coming in the next couple of picks or later on the series. I think that that champion is still fine enough that it can be big. Trundle as an answer here is quite interesting because I think that Poppy, with how much she rose to popularity and how powerful she felt for a lot of players, I'm kind of interested with the lack of Poppy. But Trundle is kind of the ever confident pick that you can go for and it won't matter that much. And Nautilus is Nautilus. I think people know about him already.
Definitely. And with the Seraphine, the idea is probably that it will be into the support role. Now, that is not to say that it can be flexed into the ADC or
True.
maybe even to the mid lane. But you are expecting that Seraphine will be going into the support role here, whatever ADC is picked with it, whether it be something that's classic like the Jinx or something that is a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more newfangled, a little bit more on the rise. It could potentially still work out with a lot of champions that really like to get an enchanter at their side. With the Nautilus getting locked in, that does open up questions of whether or not potentially we get a Samira, for example, or something else that does want to have a little bit of frontline to be able to stay protected. The Trundle as well has a little bit of versatility. We have been seeing some Trundle move into the
That is true.
lane recently. So the opportunity for Trundle to go there and to face off against this Ornn that was picked in B2 is definitely a selection. We got that Fiora hovered in. It would be a very strong pick, something that Ornn is going to have difficulty with handling until the later stages of the game, and it is going to get locked in R3 here.
And they opt for the Fiora. We were talking about the flex potential with the Trundle, but with the Fiora, feels like pretty much set in stone where we're seeing things. For the AF, apart from the Ornn, I feel like there's not much room for, or there's a lot of room actually, to try and see where these champions may end up going because Misfortune can be flex in support and AD carry, Seraphine 3 positions. So I think that we have still some room to see where the AF send these champions and how can they set up their comp. But particularly, I think we need to focus on some sort of consistent damage coming in from one of the mid lane or bot lane in that way. I think that that's why we saw also the ban coming in from the Kindred because in the jungle, she fills that role as well as the AD carrying the jungle position, right? So I want to see what else ends up coming. I think something like Orianna may be a pretty good ban coming in from the side of CB because you do want to take away from the potential team fighting prowess that this combo already shows. Asir as well, maybe an option, Victor as well. So just keep those in mind in case the Seraphine is not exactly going into that position. Wukong, I think, smart, a smart option here as well to ban away, just because of how much team fight prowess there is on the AF. But I think that the pieces are kind of falling into place for what each team wants. And you were bringing up a little bit onto the Samira. I think that it would be risky because of how much you're banking on having the Samira spike off early on. But one thing is certain, and that is because Miss Fortune is already selected, this bot lane may not be as tanky as you may think, especially if it ends up being Seraphine Miss Fortune. That is a place where you can try and trying to get a snowball. So there I can see the angle for the Samira, but I feel like it's way too risky. And it did happen.
It did happen. So drafting wise, I think I disagree with the Samira coming in R4, but that tells me that CB Midnight is focused in on making sure that Yune does get the counter pick to whatever mid lane champion Gladiator is going to be using. Now, Gladiator, a Diamond 4 player, Yune, a Master player, so the opportunity is there for Uni to potentially just carry in the the skill department. So I definitely see why that can be the case as Zach does get locked in. I think that that is going to be the jungle role. It does provide that extra range for the encore. Zach comes in with the elastic slingshot, is able to knock everyone up. Seraphine lands a multi-man encore. Miss Fortune then puts that in with the bullet time. You have a really strong composition there. And as you were talking about TDS, the Orianna is hovered and the Orianna is selected to now potentially go up against what we're going to see in the mid lane. I think there are a couple of options that are still available. I think you are looking for maybe a little bit of disengage, in my opinion, but let's see what they go
I feel
with.
like it has to be Asir. Like for me, CB has to go Asir in this position because you brought it up perfectly. Disengage is crucial. You have a Zac, you have an Ornn, and an Orianna that has someone to deliver the ultimate into you. I feel like Asir here would have been amazing because you need to reset up for your team fight. What DA wants is an engage, a fight that ends up happening by their terms with ultimates all around being what kites the fight. You need a little bit more setup on the side of CB. They need the swing now that it's big to try and get the ultimate down, stack a little bit, be able to stop, to stay in the backline with the Seraphine, with the Miss Fortune, with the Orianna, because those are champions that realistically after their ultimates more than likely are not going to be able to deal with this swing. So I think that you need a little bit more setup, and I feel like Asir would have been a perfect choice. Now it's going to be a little bit more risky, but if you can allow for this Amira to have a long fight where she can get her ultimate out and she can stack her passive, a fight for the Swain to carry out really effectively as well, where he can last quite a bit, and then the Fiora as well, where she can come in from a certain angle and then clean up the fights. I think that that is how CB wants to opt into this, because just straight up 5v5, I think DAF has such a good setup here.
I definitely agree with you there. I think that they just have a really strong composition with every single member of this lineup that is going to be able to make sure that Miss Fortune is able to put in tons of damage with this bullet time. Now, it is, there is a lot riding on this Miss Fortune Orianna combo. Like, they need to be the ones that are able to land those ultimates onto multiple members, specifically the bottom lane, the Samira, the Swain, so Yune, Daydream are going to have to make sure that they are on their toes. I think Cleanse is going to be something that is desperately going to be needed, I think, from Daydream here.
100%.
But on the other end of that, though, you are a little bit... It is a little bit of a conditional ball delivery system, right? Like, Zac can get in with the elastic slingshot, but it is telegraphed. Ornn takes a little bit of time to get into position with his headbutt. So if you want to place the ball on Ornn, you might not get the best shockwave if he's not able to get to the backline. And I think that Trundle Nautilus, with the ability to be able to put up the ice pillar, to be able to utilize the depth charge to stun out the Miss Fortune ultimate. There are a lot of things that CB can do in the team fight, but I don't think that that is what CB is necessarily looking for. When I see the Fiora, when I see the Swain, I see a lot of opportunity for wave clear and a lot of opportunity to be able to get into those side lanes and force DAF into a split pushing strategy, in which case they don't win those skirmishes.
And I think that that has to be how CB opts into fights as well, because I feel like just like we said previously, opting into a straight 5v5 may end up being suicidal because of how much setup and how many teamfight ultimates there is on the side of DAF. I think that for them, playing the side lanes accordingly, and especially utilizing the Sphere to its maximum power, because Ornn, yes, he can clear waves and maybe not die, but he cannot stop a Fiora from split pushing. He can make her take more time, but he cannot stop her. That I feel like that's a given. And then if you send Orianna, she will essentially die, especially if Fiora is not behind. So I think that you have to play off of this Fiora, and if you're on CB side. The only issue that I may find with this is that the game has become way too objective reliant. And if there's an advantage of dragons for the AF, if they have, let's say, 2 dragons going into soul point or 3 dragons opting into the soul and then trying to set up for objective, Fiora not being there may be hugely detrimental for the side of the AF. And I think that the split push power has fallen so much because of how impactful these objectives end up being that we typically see it. Top laners tend to, and top laners that are split push focused specifically, tend to just ignore the silent for a little bit because of how impactful these objectives may end up being. So I think that if CB Midnight falls into that trap, which is really likely with how the meta is currently, I think that they would be falling into a pitfall that they cannot escape from.
Yeah, I think, with the split pushing side of things, you do bring up a really good point, in which case, like, if you allow for Divine Ascension to just get all of those early objectives, I mean, you do have an early game jungler in the Trundle, so you should be able to potentially contest the first Rift Herald, even potentially contest the first Dragon if you are somehow able to get priority using the Nautilus and just the power of the tanky boy to be able
Yeah.
to provide. But I am very curious to see how well the priority game, especially in the mid lane, is going to play out. Orianna, I think in order for DAF to be effective to get those early game objectives, it is going to need to be a lot of babysitting for this Orianna to make sure that she's able to get mid lane priority. If she doesn't have mid lane priority, I don't know if you really want to go into a skirmish in the bottom lane, say Samira, Nautilus, Trundle versus Misfortune Seraphine. Like, I feel like you're coin flipping the game at that point, and I think that CB has the opportunity to still scale relatively well with the Swain. Now, DAF does have their own scaling as well. They do have the ornaments from the Ornn, of
I
course.
would say
You've also
much
got
better
the
scaling.
Seraphine. Yep, you've got Orianna, so you do have a lot of late game potential there for DAF,
Yeah.
but you do have to worry about the CB snowball in the early stages of the game, and so I don't think that this game is going to be decided at Dragon. I think that this game is going to be decided at Baron, which, alludes again to your point of saying, a split pushing composition does have trouble being able to secure Barons unless they are able to be so far ahead in these side lanes. So it really is up to CB to play that strong split pushing macro game. It's up to DAF to really force CB Midnight into these team fight objective based skirmishes at towers, at dragons, to be able to potentially get those multi-kills, to get those advantages for Seraphine Misfortune, and, just be able to steamroll this game one. But with that being said, draft has been completed. We are now into the spectator delay. I gotta ask you, for the first time in the VTS TDS, what is going to be the Dragon Soul and Rift here for game one?
I'm feeling infernally. I want some damage. I want to blow people up. So let's go for Infernal Dragon this time.
Infernal, I think that we're going to see a Cloud Drake or a Hextech Drake. I think seeing a
Okay.
bunch of it. I think we're going to see a Cloud Drake. I think, Ability Haste is going to be so fun for both of these teams. So I'm going to go with the Cloud Drake here in game one. Chat, I want to know what you guys think the Dragon Soul in Rift is going to be for this first game. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, the first live game of the VTS, Divine Ascension Frostbite versus CB Midnight, will commence. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Victoris Triumph series. We got Moose and TDS here at the desk. Really quick, though, can we get a shout out to our producer for the week? It is Braku,
Woo!
filling in for Gurf while he goes and has funsies at like a bachelor party or something. But shout out to Gurf as always for bringing us all together and all of that fun stuff. But we are now ready to get into game number 1. You've got Divine Ascension Frostbite going to be over on the blue side. You've got CB Midnight going to be over on the red. And I mean, I'm so excited to get started with the VTS, the split TDS. It's going to be so much fun.
It's been quite a bit, so certainly I'm quite excited to finally be back in the BDS and with so many new teams, with so many new things to be ready to look out for. I'm really excited to see what these new teams can bring forward, and if someone can dethrone the current champions as well.
Yeah, SLK for current or normally or what was Virtue Gaming ambition is now, in Group B, definitely a titan of the league and definitely a team that both groups and all teams should definitely respect moving into this regular season. But with that being said, we have started the beginning of this first game. Super excited to get this started as we see both teams decide to go with a bottom side start. Of course, Mask Hydra with that Zac going to not need any mana will go up to the top lane here relatively soon. So the opportunity potentially for Riddy and Mask Hydra to have a scuttle fight is in the works.
And that is going to be one of the points to look out for, because one of the things that we were talking about is getting that snowball going on the side of CB, right? And for Trundle, I think it's going to be crucial not only to get that snowball going, but to decide which lane does he really want to put priority on. Looking at the minimap right now, Trundle is over on the top side, so he's planning to go for that two main camps with a small camp into ganking the Fiora. And I think that Zac may be a little too late for that potential there. The wave is pushing. This is perfect setup for the Trundle to come here.
Yeah, we've got Cusco going to come in, going to kind of bait out Alice Snow, going to be able to get the slow with the parry, as well as the Frozen
Too
Pillar.
late.
Riddy's going to flash forward, and that is an
Yep.
easy first blood. CB Midnight taking down Alice Snow.
It's a pretty good setup, a pretty easy setup, but it's great that it works out for CB because this is the kind of setup that they need to start the game going. Bot lane may be getting pushed, but who cares? Realistically, you get your Fiora ahead, and the wave is also in an amazing spot for the Fiora to go for the fight. She's not here though,
Okay.
so this could be risky.
Yeah, Mask Hydra
Oh,
not able to escape Riddy with a play. Able to
you're too
utilize the
late.
Frost Pillar and the Revive and smiting for good measure. That is going to be the second kill of the game going over to Riddy. Yune, though, looking to be able to make it a 1-4-1. Oh, Yune
no.
makes it a 2-0 in favor of CB Midnight. Able to flash away and takes down Gladiator.
We were asking for a snowball, not such a great start already for CB Midnight. 3 kills in the first 4 minutes. Well, 3:45, but it's about to be 4 minutes. So really getting the lead that they won, and it's on 2 of the main champions that I think would have benefited the most out of this. Maybe Samira would be the other one that I would think about. Swain feels like a placebo beneficiary from this, but Fiora and Trundle getting these early leads so effectively at the start of the game can turn into a much, much, much higher snowball. And I'm waiting to see where the Trundle goes now, because that first kill on the Fiora may turn out into either I want to keep piling resources into her and allow for bot lane to do whatever they want, or with this first kill, you let Fiora to survive by herself and then come to bot lane consistently, dive this bot lane or gank this bot lane as much as possible, and get a lead out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Huge opportunity now as Riddy, should just be able to, not only that, should be able to navigate this entire jungle pretty much with ease. Masked Hydra not going to be able to really combat him at this point. Maybe when Let's Bounce is going to be available, it might be a different story. But right now, you're looking at a Sheen and a Longsword versus 2 Ruby Crystals. I definitely take the Sheen any day of the week. But on top of that, you've also got Yune coming back with a Dark Seal amplifying tome. Like, you're starting off the objective of getting that snowball going very, very quickly here. You've got priority in all 3 lanes at the moment, which allows for Daydream and Clutch to reset. as perfect of an early game as you can expect from CB Midnight.
This is such a good early game, and this is such a bad start from the side of the AF. They really need to try and turn things around, or at least stop the bleeding, because their comp still scales quite greatly. So as long as they don't fall into a super huge deficit, they can still come back into 15 minutes, 20 minutes in a spot where they can try and fight off things.
Definitely. I think, at this point, though, there is still plenty of game left to play. It is only a 1.3 thousand gold advantage. At 5 minutes, it does feel relatively scary, but it's not necessarily a disadvantage that you can't come back from. But definitely looking to see, when Yune is able to get into that first
Oh
item, that big
no.
Leandri's Anguish. Alice Snow, however, going to potentially be in trouble, going to get slowed, could potentially be a tower dive
Do
from
they
Riddy.
have
Riddy
enough?
wants it. Riddy
Ooh.
wants it. He will get it, but he will end up getting shut down. It's a 1-for-1.
But that is a shutdown going into the pockets of the Ornn. Obviously, not an actual carry that gets a lot of gold thanks to this, but now maybe he can survive the lane a little bit better against the Fiora. And it comes off of a bit of a misplay off of Riddy. He waited, he utilized the pillar as soon as possible. And I think if he just waits a little bit longer, that just turns into a pretty easy kill that will never get answered back. But all in all, it does happen. It's a 1-for-1. And this is something that the side of DAF can try and use to secure themselves a little bit more. The Ornn didn't even use a huge wave, so this is a perfect spot to try and stop things. Oh, Cusco?
Yeah, Cusco, nice parry,
Yeah.
and the stun to boot. Gonna be able to get that turret plate, able to get the demolish proc off as well. So, able to get that extra little bit of damage and just continuing to add the snowball. Cusco is gonna come back with a lot of money and is able to pick up an Iron Spike whip, a boot, and maybe even a control ward, but I'm not gonna have enough for the control ward, but still. 2,600 gold compared to 24 is not
Oof.
necessarily the biggest amount, but it is still something that is allowing for Cusco to run the show in the top lane. You've got that Cole to be able to get that extra 300 when you do get it, and it just going according to plan right now for CB Midnight. Infernal Drake is live and is ready to go, and it does look like we have CB Midnight already on the dragon at the moment, but this could potentially be a team fight or a skirmish situation. Remember, it could be a 50-50 here, like I stated. Let's see if they do decide to go for it. The elastic slingshot comes
Already?
through. They're not able to get the root. Who's going to get it? Who's going to have the better smite? And it's going to
Oh
be
no.
Riddy, who not only picks up the dragon, but will give Daydream their first kill, the VTS.
And I know we said about how if they stacked objectives early on, the AF can try and make something happen for them, right? The problem is that you cannot fight in that situation. There's no level 6 on neither Misfortune or Seraphine at that point. Now Misfortune does have it. And there's no level 6 on the sack either. You just let yourself be a victim in a place where it's pretty impossible to fight back. Like, even if you steal that, I don't think it's worth at all. And he didn't. Oh, Yune?
Yeah,
Good
Yune, no
showing.
mana. Demonic Ascension, though, will be able to push forward through that wave. Gladiator already using Shockwave, though, so shouldn't be really in trouble. Yune is going to try to fight for this, though. Maybe going to be forced to flash here.
Yune.
Yune overstaying his welcome and will end up giving Gladiator their first kill.
Didn't even have a lot of mana to try and fight back. So really just trying to push the wave. I understand that, but at the same time, it's not worth your life to try and fight back and gets punished in the end. Really nice kill for Gladiator. Now we need to see how much can they try and transform this into some sort of salvaging situation for the side of DAF. They are still in a tight spot, 2k behind before 10 minutes. Samira also got one kill after being so down in lane, so she's getting salvaged thanks to the rest of the team. And if something doesn't stop on the side of DAF to allow this goal to go into the pockets of CV Midnight, then they are going to keep on bleeding really heavily.
I do feel like, Daydream, Clutch are playing a little bit too aggressively here. They have not backed Clutch Karma, being able to assist and being able to be that tanky front line. Daydream looking to be able to get a decent wave state before they do back. Mario Flames, however, able to come back with that serrated Dirk. It is a really tough lane for Daydream to try to win here. Serrated Dirk as well as that Tear of the Goddess getting procced. And so, you're really looking at a tough situation here for the CB Midnight bottom lane just because of an item difference.
It really feels like that, but it's at the same time kind of what you were getting yourself into when you went Samira Nautilus into double range bot lane. And the main issue that I find with this is that we haven't seen any sort of attempt to be aggressive from the Nautilus, right? Like it feels like it's more positioning based than anything else. Oh, wait.
Okay, Cusco not going to be able to hit
Parry.
the parry, but the flash forward into the Call of Forge God. Cusco is
Ooh,
still going to
not
be
enough
alive.
damage.
Grand challenge on the Mask Hydra. Hydra is going to be forced to flash away, but he
Oh.
doesn't escape. And a failed gank from the side of Divine Ascension is going to give Cusco their first kill of the VTS and even more objective control on top side of the Rift.
I like the attempt. I understand why they opted into it as well because they baited up the parry, but it was just not going to work out that well. That this post teleport. Oh
Oh
no.
my goodness. Alice Snow teleports in only to
Oh, the
die.
pain.
Riddy, phenomenal frozen pillar, able to stop that headbutt and will pick up the 7th kill of the game for CB Midnight.
And now the thing that we were talking about with the bot lane is still getting punished and not really committing to anything else. Even though I still think that Samira and Nautilus could be a little bit more aggressive with their flashes or anything like that, it really doesn't feel like it matters because your top side currently is quick maths 6-2 with pushing 2 lanes, 2 turrets in the top lane as well as 1 potential turret more. I don't think they are going to get it, but at least they are going to push with the Herald. I think that Fiora is overstaying a little bit too hard.
Wow. Wow, folks. So not only was
3
that Rift
turrets.
Herald able to get the and 1 with the headbutt onto the inner turret, but the inner turret gets taken and they get another and 1 onto the inhibitor tower. That is an exposed inhibitor at 12 minutes of the game. We're just looking at a fundamentally better top lane here in game 1 from Riddy and Cusco, highlighting their performance and their prowess here
Oh,
in
the
the
hook connects.
VTS. A root's going to land on the Mask Hydra, who's now going to be in trouble. Level 7 to level 7. Hydra has not had the game that they can have or that they want, and they want to try to escape. They barely escape using that blast cone.
One part of me really wanted that to hit just because of how flashy it would be and how nice it would seem. But it doesn't even matter if that connects. Look at how the jungle is going. Oh no, Mario.
Mario Flame's going to be
Flash
forced to
away.
flash away. Demolish Procs now going in from Cusco, who's going to be able to parry the shockwave. Very nice parry. Very nice time is coming in from Cusco. This Fiora, very highlight performance here.
And one of the biggest issues right now the DAF is also facing, not only the fact that they are in a deficit, it's that catching up to this, trying to take back what you've lost so far, it's going to take longer. Now, if they had until 25 minutes in equal circumstances to really feel strong, now it's going to be until 30 minutes, until 35 even. So it's just such a hard situation for them. Cusco, I think that he can get this kill easily.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pass forward. He is
Yeah,
going to be able to
bye-bye.
parry, and Cusco will take it on a killing spree. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the rift, Riddy going to be able to pick up the 2nd dragon of the game. And hey, I saw some Ocean votes in the chat. It is an Ocean Rift here in game 1.
So my dragon at least appeared. So I'll take that as a small victory because mine was on the scoreboard. I think that should count in a way.
Right.
But
agree.
in reality,
I agree. It's
okay.
better than me. No Cloud Drake here.
Not even the cloud trick appearing. But in reality, though, like this is such a doom state for the side of the AF. Like bounties are about to spawn at 14 and maybe something even worse. No
Oh
flash.
my goodness, a great dredge line going to land on a Mario Flames. It is going to be a 3v2 situation. There's
Ooh.
Wombo combos. Mario Flames is able to get the bullet time on Riddy. Riddy in
Riddy.
trouble. Riddy's going to die, and that's going to be 1 kill for Mario Flames. 1 kill for Gladiator, and now Daydream is going to potentially be in trouble, going to go in. Oh my god, Daydream! It's a Daydream diff and a quadra kill for the ADC of CB Midnight.
This is the kind of play that every AD carry wants to pull up when they pick Samira. You don't pick Samira to wait on the backlane and just hit people. You pick Samira to jump in as a madman, as a psychopath, and get that quadra kill. And that's exactly what Daydream ends up pulling. 4 kills. The game was in a pretty bad state. They almost turned it around. It felt like it was going to finally become something positive for the AF. But Daydream decided, nah. This is my game to shine, and gets the quadra kill, potentially a turret, and trying to shut down the doors onto this first game.
I mean, quadra kill that is at least 1,200 gold, if not more, from the power play. An extra 300 gold going to go into the hands of CB Midnight with that mid tier 1 tower going down. The mid tier 1 tower and the bottom tier 1 tower did
Oh
not go
no!
down, but unfortunately, another kill as Alice Snow is going to be in trouble. Will give Lord Cusco their 4th kill of the game. Will be on a rampage. And TDS, we see Daydream just come back with a full Lord Dominic's regards. No items, just a full item. Just a full completed Lord Dominic's.
So far this game has been quite the nightmare for the side of DAF. So I'm kind of curious, is this qualified as horror or not yet? Like, do we actually have a rated in case something goes horribly wrong later on?
TDS. Oh my god.
This is
Well,
becoming quite hard to see, if I'm honest.
I mean, it does feel like we
We're
are
about
trapped
to
in
hit. We're about
we
to
are
hit
trapped in the
10k.
Saw franchise. Yeah, we are about to be 10K'd at this point, but it does feel like we're in the Saw franchise. Do you want to play a game, except you're playing with flesh or something? It's not working out right now for Divine
Oh, the
Ascension. It's like they're
TP.
not playing
Oh
with
no.
hands. As Kuso is going to go in, the bullet time is going to land a little bit of damage on us. Also, we get the Encore coming through, but Daydream is unaffected. Cusco is still at full HP, and it's another kill for Daydream and another kill for Cusco as we get the double flash forward. Yune is going to be able to pick up their 2nd kill of the game. That's 3 more down against Divine
Oh,
Ascension.
Richie.
However, Riddy, going to go a little too far forward, is going to be taken away. That is going to be a kill for Alice Snow. And then Clutch Karma going to be the next victim. Gladiator able to pick up their 3rd kill.
It's actually 2 kills, so not a bad trade. 3 for 2. All in all, they did get something. Oh, maybe 4 for 2. Or
Yeah, maybe looking to go for a little bit more here. Is Alice Snow going to potentially be in trouble? The stun is going to land. Cusco, though, will be able to take it. That is a dominating Fiora 6-0-4.
it's a Fiora that is 6-0-4, and then a Zamira that is 6-0-1. That is not something that you want to play against, but the game is never over until it's truly over. Ignore the fact that it's over 10k at 1732. Like, there's still a chance. Let's believe that DAF has a chance to try and turn this game around. Unless you're a CB Midnight fan, though, then no, don't believe that.
No. It's one thing to hope, but it's another thing to, give false hope. And I don't foresee a window. I don't foresee a way for DAF, for Divine Ascension to come in. I mean, the only way that they win is if they get a massive bullet time team fight, and Mario Flames might be in position to do it, but he just doesn't have bullet time up.
It was off cooldown. Oh no. It's so
Yeah.
painful.
It's so rough as Cusco going
Oh,
to be
there's
able to push forward
there's
with
even another
Shelly.
herald.
They're going to be able to summon this Herald. They will be able to get the inhibitor down in the top lane. There it is, as the dragon is now spawned in the bottom lane. Shelly is actually going to get a headbutt, going to force Snow to go and flash away. But Cusco now going to be in a very tough situation. Will he be able to escape it, though? Bullet time is going to be used. Flash is going to get used. Cusco's going to get shut down. And that's going to be actually a massive amount of gold, 950, going into Mario Flame's pockets.
Oh, so it wasn't even 1,000? Well, it's still a massive, like you're pointing out. Oh?
Okay, a little overextension, though. This is how DAF comes back into the game. This is exactly how they do it. Overextension and playing with your food is the only way that DAF comes back into this game, and that is exactly what they just did there. Mario Flames gets 950 for that shutdown, and then 2 more kills with Yune and Clutch Karma dying as well.
It has to start with one thing, and that is taking away the fact that it's a 10k. Now it's just 9k, so you can try and hover that better. And the shutdown went into the pockets of the misfortune. So all in all, not a bad situation for the side of the, well, ignoring the fact that they are 9k behind actually, but it's getting closer, and they need to take this kind of picks, this kind of overextensions, this kind of number advantage situations where they can actually utilize their numbers against the gold so that they can get in a winning position. I also wanted to comment something because we saw the second herald pushing really far. I'm kind of curious, do we have a name for that? Like, because the first one is Shelly, right?
Sheldon.
Wait, really, Sheldon? I don't know why I
That's
was thinking of something like Herbert or something like that.
like Herbert or Herbert the Herald. You know,
Yeah, like
I
Herbert Harold.
when I was casting Wild Rift, because the Rift Herald is, it's different. It's a different Rift, right?
Yep.
I called it Sheldon. And so my first inclination was to call it, Sheldon here for this one, but I like Herbert the Herald.
Like I just feel like Herbert is such a second kind of name in a way, without trying to apply anything. And Cusco is killing again.
Yes, Cusco is going to go in on a dominant rampage, able to take down Alice Snow, and that's going to be your tank now gone for DAF. Bullet Time will be able to get a ton of damage onto Cusco, but he is still going to be alive. Now
Here's
the cavalry has
Swain.
arrived. Unit's going to come through with the Demonic Ascension, able to get the root onto Dehydrated. Dehydrated will die.
Daydream is not even
Yune
here.
trying to come through, but it doesn't even matter. Daydream is not even part of the fight, and they don't even need him because Cusco is so fed, because Yune is so fed. It's a 70 CS advantage for this Swain, but another nice elastic slingshot, though. That's going to be Riddy and Clutch Karma going down. Yune now potentially in a bad situation, going to be able to avoid the elastic slingshot. Can he survive? Can he pick up a kill on the way out? The answer is no. Daydream and Cusco now up against the world as Hydra coming through. Does not have revive. Able to get the stun onto Cusco. Going to try to be able to get away as we do get the bullet time. Going to be the Death Blossom coming through. It's a double kill for Daydream. And they're going to be able to pick up their second inhibitor of the game. Daydream, though, might actually be costing his life for the cause. However, doesn't have flash, doesn't have exhaust. Is going to go in with another Death Blossom and is able to dash away. And now that's a grand challenge coming through from Cusco. Alice Snow will die. And it's a 2v5 that Daydream and Cusco are able to win.
They have Baron buff. They have Cusco still pushing. They cannot stop this. Actually, I think they can kill Cusco, but even then, I think one of them dies. Or not even. The game is over, actually.
Yeah, Cusco might die. He doesn't die. An 8-1-5 Fiora, and 8-0-2. I can't even say that. 8-0-2 Daydream, able to pick up a massive Game 1 victory for CB Midnight. Less than 23 minutes to complete this dominant victory for CB Midnight. I mean, a quadra kill as well on our first stream.
Yeah, we remember last split we had actually our first Penta as well in the first game. They're just treating us really nicely in these games with how quickly they try to get this kind of performances. But I want to see if this is the quickest game so far, because 22 minutes is so dominating coming in from CB Midnight, and I think it is. I'm trying to check the games right now, so I think it's going to be the quickest actually.
I think so. I think that
I think it is.
I think this is the quickest game that we've seen so far in the VTS. But
yeah, it
is. There's a little to unpack about this game. It was a dominant performance, but it was a little sloppy, I would say, from CB Midnight. They could have made it a perfect game. They could have made it a flawless victory, but there were some mistakes that were made throughout it that maybe other teams could potentially take advantage of, or maybe even DAF could take advantage of in game 2. With that being said, though, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to take a look back at that game through the eyes of the analyst desk. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everybody, for the Victoris Triumph Series in the match between CB Midnight and Divine Ascension Frostbite. And unfortunately for Divine Ascension Frostbite, they got a little bit run over. They had a very rough time matching up into what CB Midnight was doing into the game. And I know when we were looking at it, Quintic, you were sort of thinking that a lot of it came down to how the pathing in the early game went down. So can you break down a little bit of that for me?
Yeah, so I think the way that Divine Ascension started their level 1 really set them up for failure. The Zac had a guaranteed shoving lane in the Misfortune Seraphine, chose instead to path to Ornn, who can, of course, get prio with his superior wave clear. But when you look at the matchup as a 3-camp jungler versus a full clear jungler, who tend not to deviate from those patterns, then you start to see a lot of danger for the Ornn, right? So my expectation was that Trundle would have 3 camps, even if he doesn't find anything topside, then he just invades Zac's jungle, and there's no universe in which the Zac can ever contest the Trundle. Instead, he found the actual best case scenario where, like, I don't know for sure if the Ornn was pushing solely to accommodate the Zac pathing to top lane, to give him prio and to try to give him options, or if he actually just wanted to trade. But it resulted in Trundle, of course, finding the first blood onto Ornn, getting into the jungle, getting a kill onto Zac with a good pillar, getting the camps, and like everything just went as wrong as possible. When I think at least some of that damage could have been mitigated by instead pathing down towards the bot lane. Yeah, it sucks that Zac has to start on blue, but I think it's a necessary precaution.
Yeah, and honestly, starting blue isn't even that awful for Zac. The bonus cooldown reduction does help a little bit in making your clears go by faster, even if you do lose. You lose out on getting early access to the Wraith camp, Raptors, which you obliterate, along with the Krugs, which you obliterate very easily. It's a little bit slow for Zac to do Gromp, but overall, yeah, possibly starting on the blue side and then going down and focusing on that bot lane might have been a smarter idea for the Zac, but not how it played out, and unfortunately just was not able to really convert anything on that Zac pick. And Kevbo, I'm curious, looking at the drafts here, what do you think was sort of the issue with how DAF's comp just kind of fell apart? They drafted a very strong Wombo comp, but unfortunately, they didn't have it set to Wombo. They had it set to Wumbo. So I'm not sure what happened there and where it sort of fell apart. How did their draft just sort of get beaten out?
Yeah, I think honestly, Quitnick said it best. In our little powwow we had going in between games, watching it together. It came down to Ornn was really the only real front line that they had, and Fiora countered it so well. That there really wasn't a great opportunity for them to have that team fight, because once the Fiora's ahead, you're going to take that true damage, go straight through those tanks. And it really prevented any possibility of the Wombo, because Fiora is just going to sit in the side lane. She's just going to push the entire time, which means you're going to have to send someone to answer, or else you're just going to lose the game. So I think as much as it was really honestly not a terrible draft, I think, from DAF, CB also just counter drafted so well at the Fiora to just pick them apart.
Yeah, so the Fiora really was a very smart pick for tearing apart this team fight composition. Now we are actually going to see Divine Ascension on the red side this game. What do you think we're going to be able to do with this red side selection for the team?
Well, it's hard to predict without like an intimate knowledge of their champion pools, right? Like what counter picks are they going to be looking for? What roles they're going to prioritize. I hope with access to R3 that they're going to find an easier matchup for the top lane. It's easier to just pick whatever you need. If you choose to ban out its counters on the second ban phase, that works fine. And then you can prioritize like the final R5 counter pick for whichever player you think is most likely to actually carry the game. So hopefully DAF doesn't fall into the trap of always giving R5 to your top laner. Yeah, other than that,
There's a
go ahead.
player you'd like to see them give counterpick to. Who do you think it would be?
It's hard because on paper, it's hard to like before I've seen everyone play, it's hard to distinguish between everyone. But until the bot lane blunder, I found their bot lane very stable and consistent, right? Maybe a support counterpick on 5 could actually give them the means they need to pressure an advantage early. Maybe if they start stacking Drakes, who could say, like, exactly, but I just hope in general that they're able to leverage the counterpick power of Red Side to give them a comp that won't collapse if one piece does. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I believe we are ready to get into draft. Samira, we gonna see a Samira again? Samira, good champ. Yeah. How do you feel? Yeah. How do you think about the Samira? Haha.
Okay, I think the Samira compositionally was terrible there. If you're going to draft a 1/4 for like your 4 stack, like being defensive into a wombo, Samira does not fit. It has the favorable interaction into Misfortune, like Blade Whirl into Bullet Time. If Daydream's comfortable on it, and if a situation like that is going to happen again, by all means, be my guest. Pick Samira. But
all right, by all means. Well, let's see what they're gonna do. The draft is already in progress, so we're gonna just go ahead and throw it over to the boys. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. We're the boys, Moose and TDS, as we get ourselves ready to jump into game 2. As the analyst desk was talking about, Divine Ascension now going to have the counterpicks at R3 and R5. Sivir banned out R1. I think, on the
Makes
red
sense.
side, you are pretty much guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but you are obligated to ban out Sivir on your end. Otherwise, your opponent will pick it. Question is, what do they decide to ban out for your R3 ban? It is going to be the Silas that is hovered, so no Samira ban, no Fiora ban. CBM could go for a very, very similar salty runback.
Could be the case. I think that they did perform quite nicely in the first game, so I wouldn't be surprised if they decide that some of those champions can be opted here. But being on blue side, I think that you're kind of incentivized against for the Fiora just because of giving that counter pick potential. I think Trundle perfectly fine, even though you pretty much know that it's going towards the top, the jungle. You can still flex it out, but the champion worked out really nicely. And there's a lot of champions in the meta currently that you can take advantage of as the Trundle. If they pick Bjorn again, perfect. If they pick the Zac again, perfect. So Sejuani as well could be an option, and that works perfectly for the Trundle. So I think that Trundle fits quite nicely here. This would be a pretty interesting mix-up. 6 coming in. Could be in both the AP carry and the mid lane position, but I think that quite a contrasting idea to where they had in the previous game, especially because this is more focused on big potential, on blowing up targets, on one-shotting the specific members. I think that this can be quite interesting. But that may also mean that we may see Samira again. Just saying.
Yep. Might be one of those comfort picks that we saw, like they were talking about. DAF has a lot of players that do have very specific champions that they are comfortable with. I believe Ziggs is one of them. But Ziggs is also a champion that can flex into the mid lane and into the bottom lane, so you do provide a little flexibility here. Seeing the Karma, however, I don't know if Ziggs Karma is super effective. I think that it's just an okay duo. I do think that Ziggs is going to be in the mid lane. What'd you say?
It pushes well, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. If you do go with the Ziggs Karma, you have the opportunity to be able to get that pushing power. Tristana as a very strong counter pick here. This is why it's so difficult to pick non-meta champions like R1, R2, because then you just get countered. Tristana's going to be able to put in as much pushing power in that bottom lane, whether it's Ziggs or not.
That is true. And that's also, I think, one of the better pairings as well when you opt into something like Nautilus. Akin to Samira, to Kaisa, those champions want to have an engaged support because at level 2, they're incentivized to force something to happen. And against champions as squishy as Ziggs and Karma, this just works out so well for them. Nocturne Heal, an interesting counter in a way to what you want. But with the burst setup that you have with the 6, I think that you're forcing it so that you can burst the Tristana as soon as the Nocturne ultimate comes down. And with that, you can try and set up for objectives better. Also, Paranoia kind of makes trying to set up for objectives or just fighting for objectives kind of a difficult task. All in all, I think a smart decision. I don't think buy would make sense because Trundle pretty much feels like it's top jungle essentially, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And I think banning mid laners this time around for CBM would be much more logical. I think it was Ari Victor last time, so Ari Swain wouldn't be surprising. And I think for what CBM has, certainly taking away the Victor, not necessarily the best of cases.
Right. I mean, you also have to think Ziggs can go into the mid lane. What does Ziggs not want to play against? Definitely doesn't want to go up against an Ahri with that charm and all the mobility that it does provide. Swain kind of in the same realm where he does kind of heal up against your bouncing bombs in the early stages of the game, and you will just get outscaled there. I think like the question is right now that I think is going to get answered here very, very soon is Divine Ascension going to put Ziggs into the mid lane or into the bottom lane? Because you don't know yet, and you really have to put Tristana where the Ziggs is going to be, I think, in this particular instance. So where is Daydream going to be? I think now that we do have an Echo getting locked in, Ziggs is going to be in the bottom lane, which will then put Tristana in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think Echo pretty much calls for sentencing unless it's a Nocturne top Echo jungle and they are bamboozling us. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Still, I like this kind of variation. Also, quickly, actually, Echo jungle Nocturne mid lane could still be something we end up seeing. Because if people have been following LPL, Toynbee does this and can play this out quite nicely. LeBlanc, a champion that we haven't seen as consistently. I think that she's not in as bad of a spot as she was previously in the season. I think that right now, if it's against the 6, she can find angles. And then if it's against the Echo, I think that there's other possibilities to play off. Against Nocturne, you pretty much get neutralized because it's just a pushing lane. But LeBlanc may be flashy enough. And then Aatrox. Okay, this is a game. This is pretty similar to the previous game, but I think even more feast or famine. Like, if you don't win by 25, this can become a hard game for you on the side of CBM Midnight.
Yeah, definitely. With the Trundle with the Nautilus, who are both going to basically fall off a cliff, fall into the ocean if you're the Nautilus here. At the 25, 27-ish minute mark is going to be pretty rough. Wukong.
This doesn't answer anything.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna say this now. And I don't want to make DA I don't want DAF to take this the wrong way, but if you were planning to pick Wukong, that is an R1 pick. It is not an R5 pick. It's not an answer.
Yeah.
It is a comp building tool. Wukong is a comp building tool, and now with the Wukong coming in, you needed some AD. And a carry Wukong that does build AD damage does provide that opportunity. The same thing with the Nocturne. However, you do not have dedicated frontline now. So I'm a little bit nervous now where DAF is going to be able to find that. What I think the advantages of this composition have in terms of wombo combo is you do have the ability to run them down with Mantra E, with the Karma. I do think that if you are able to get the stun from the Echo into the knockup from the Wukong, you can land a really strong Mega Inferno Bomb. So I do think that they have a decent composition in terms of the draft coming together and what it can do. But CB Midnight just has answers to go up against that with 3 champions that are able to dash away and another one that is able to anchor away.
True, that can be the way to disengage. Like, I don't think they have disengage that that gives you enough confidence, if that makes sense in a way. Like, I think it's not comparable to something like a Braum or an Azir, obviously, but it does provide you chances to try and run away and then try and play off team fights once again after the initial paranoia into Super Mega Death Bomb. I think it's not actually Super Mega Death Bomb, it's Inferno Bomb, right?
Yeah, Mega Inferno Bomb, and then it's Super Mega Death Rocket.
Yeah, I always confuse the two. It's explosions, so close enough. But I think if you can play after the fact that those 2 ultimates come in, Cyclone as well in between, then you can try and re-engage on the side of CB Midnight. The only thing is that because CB Midnight does need to try and get a lead and play off of a lead because of how aggressive their composition is, I can see situations where if they overcommit a little too much, it just sets up once again for what TA really wants. And then the Six and the Karma may play a pivotal part here because they can actually burst out certain targets with this before the fight even starts. And I think that that's also another avenue for them to play this out. So I don't think, I think the composition from DAF is quite good in that regard. I agree that Wukong could have been way earlier and that could set up for their comp, but at the end they did get what they potentially wanted to set up with this kind of comp, especially with the early six pick. And I think that CBM didn't really answer for what DAF's comp was, but much more so for what they wanted to play with. So I think that
Right.
that's why we see so many holes in certain places. And it's on I think it's on CBM to try and get the same lead, if not better, from the previous game and try and carry the game out as well. And on the AF this time to not allow for the bleeding to be as heavy as it was.
I, you know, my biggest issue that I have, or I guess, I think that Tristana and LeBlanc as a duo does have the opportunity to scale somewhat moving into the later stages of the game. Tristana at 3 items is still Tristana with 3 items, is still a marksman with
Yeah.
3 items, should be able to deal tons of damage, and it's going to be guaranteed damage. Ziggs, on the other hand, Gladior, or if it's Mario Flames, whoever is playing the Ziggs here, um, regardless of that, your damage is still conditional, right? Like, you do get that little bit of auto proc if you do decide to go Lich Bane, for example. You do get the auto proc. That is something that can be very powerful. But Bouncing Bomb, your landmines, your Mega Inferno Bomb, all of those tools require you to be able to land them. And that is where now DAF is, I think, a little bit worried in terms of being able to get enough direct lockdown in these team fights to be able to make sure that Tristana and LeBlanc cannot dash away. I do think that the opportunity is there. Don't get me wrong. I think we've said that. I think that, there is that opportunity for LeBlanc and Tristan to get knocked up by the Wukong, to get stunned by the zone from Echo's W, the fear from the Nocturne. There are ways for Tristana and LeBlanc to get locked down. And so it's really going to be up to the Ziggs to be able to capitalize on what lockdown the rest of his team is able to provide. So very, very interesting game. I think, mechanic-wise, this is going to be decided, I think, mechanically speaking. Are these teams going to be able to have the good hands, the hands that I don't have, to be able to get away from some of these skill shots? We'll find out. Before we take it to a break, though, I got to ask you, TDS, it was an Ocean Drake in game 1. What is going to be the Drake for game 2?
I'm feeling Hextech. Let's go for Hextech. I like that Drake.
Yeah, Hextech?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Infernal this time. I think we're gonna see an Infernal Drake. There's a bunch of explosions everywhere. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna see some burst damage. So it should be really, really great. But with that being said, folks, chat, I want to know what you guys think of the drafts and of, what Dragon Soul and Rift you think we're going to be seeing here in game 2. When we return, we are going to see potentially the conclusion of this series. Will CB Midnight be able to make it a clean 2-0? Or will Divine Ascension Frostbite find a way to take it into a game 3 situation? We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Victoris Triumph series. Moose here. We've got TDS at the colorcaster. We've also got Braku as our producer. And as we get ourselves started with game number 2, you just want to shout out again Victoris and all of the tournaments that they have got throughout the amateur League of Legends and Valorant metaverse. You have tournaments and games every single weekday of the week during the fall 2022 split, with even double headers of League of Legends and Valorant on multiple days, with the with draft shows, with different levels of play. It's a ton of fun. Definitely check it out and enjoy the content, because Victoris puts out a pretty phenomenal product.
It's been really good what Victoris has brought up, and certainly every other league and every other game that they bring up eventually, maybe apart from Valorant and League of Legends, it's going to be great, especially because we're already seeing a pretty great series. So why not give the love to the rest of them? But I did want to focus on something quickly. We do know that it's going to be Echo and the Nocturne in the mid lane and jungle respectively, and there's double ignite as well. So I'm expecting blood.
Yes, 100%. No teleport game for Divine Ascension Frostbite. Going through the rosters really, really quickly, you're looking over on the blue side. You've got CB Midnight with Cusco going to be playing as that Aatrox, looking to have another highlight game like they had with that Fiora in game 1. Riddy going to be playing once again as that Trundle. Yune going to be playing as the Flash Ignite LeBlanc, with Daydream and then Clutch Karma going to go in with the Tristana Nautilus. Important keystones, or I think important summoner spells to note. Daydream decided to go with the Exhaust. It is a no heal bottom lane. All kills, all damage, all blood coming in here in game 2.
And I respect the decision, particularly because it's not only the fact that it's for the aggressiveness in the bot lane, having that exhaust can pay off quite nicely, but also preemptively for when the Nocturne jumps onto you, for when the Echo tries to jump onto you, for when the Wukong tries to jump onto you. You have tools to try and deny at least one of them. So I think that not a bad approach, and it can even save him at least once or twice.
Taking a look over onto the side of Divine Ascension Frostbite, Alice Snow, and you playing as that Wukong in the top lane. You've got Masked Hydra as the Nocturne, Gladiator as the Echo with Mario Flames, and Dehydrated as your bottom lane with the Ziggs and the Karma. Like we stated earlier, there is only one teleport in this game, and that is Lord Cusco with that Aatrox, the only teleport. So lane, or split pushing game, going to be very difficult. And if you do see a champion on the opposite side of the map, you know that there's going to be very little chance that they're going to be able to make it quickly to where the team fight is.
Which will make numbers advantage matter, actually. Like none of those of that teleport thing where you have 2 and 3 members on one side, but then out of nowhere 2 teleports come in and you can try and salvage the play. No, you have to understand that advantage. Oh, the engage.
Okay, yeah,
Great satchel.
Dehydrated. Yeah, nice satchel there coming in from Mario Flames. A flash, however, used by Dehydrated. First gank of the game for CB Midnight does not result in a kill.
Pretty good gank though, because they did get the flash out of the Karma. And I think 2 targets like that you can take advantage of can be quite useful to have the flash advantage. Oh, bye bye.
Okay, Yune just immediately destroying Gladiator. Flash Ignite going to be able to be enough to be able to pick up first blood in game 2, denying the gank for Masked Hydra before it even starts.
That is such a great execution on the LeBlanc, and it's not only the kill value. I want to quickly point out the CS discrepancy, because right now LeBlanc is destroying the living life out of out of the Echo, and now also with that kill, it's just going to feel even more painful. Oh, flash engage.
Okay, Dehydrated, no
Again.
flash was used last time, and now Riddy is back for more. Exhaust will come through, and Riddy will get the
Ooh.
bite out of Dehydrated. That's not going to be H2O, but that will be some blood. Riddy picking up their first kill.
And 2 games in a row, first blood for the side of CB Midnight, adding onto that second kill onto Reedy. Maybe it would have been great to have it on the Tristana, but that kill is going to turn out massively if you can keep on putting pressure like this. And on top lane, it feels like they are going to try and abide for that just top lane is an island rule, where you leave your top laners to play as well as they can, and it feels like it's paying for CB Midnight even much more because the lead, like Lord Cusco was able to build this CS lead by himself and still has teleport. So even if he dies by a mistake, he can still come back and be fine.
And that's the issue there with the Wukong. It is the resource bar difference here in the island game. Snow, with very little mana, cannot really combat Lord Cusco in because it takes, it takes a lot of mana to be able to go for the Nimbus Strike,
Gladiator?
Sloan Crusting Blow fight. Riddy, however, going to potentially be in trouble trying to go in for a gank against Snow as Cusco now going to be able to come in. Gladiator is going to be taking a lot of damage. Riddy's going to be in trouble. Riddy might die as the Ignite comes
Double
through.
Ignite!
But Riddy's going to try to be able to get away. We got the World Ender coming through from Cusco. Alice Snow is going to be pushed back in. Riddy survives and Cusco picks up the kill.
And disaster for DAF because that is not only Gladiator dying, oh Lord Cusco, you're trying to bait way too
Oh
much.
my god, and they're going to get it!
Actually-
Yune going to be able to pick up a kill as Cusco's going to use the Darkened Blade healing to be able to stay alive, dehydrated up here to try to provide assistance and support. The dash forward, Yune picks up their third kill, and it's an outplay for CB Midnight.
And what was already bad turns into disaster, into catastrophe, because now it's not only the kills. Six is alone on this bot lane. He cannot farm, so that means that you can put a little bit more pressure onto this bot side and give to Tristana more value. But the play in top side, it's just complete and utter disaster, complete and utter catastrophe, as I named previously, because LeBlanc gets 2 more kills. You get to blow out against the double ignite. Double ignite gets thrown out without killing anyone, and you just completely move ahead in terms of gold lead. Tristana took such a bad trade.
Yeah, Daydream, showing off that platinum rank a little bit there, trying to go in for the 1v1 trade, and ends up getting a little bit of damage Mario Flames. Yeah, I got to flame Daydream every now and again. You can't let his ego get too ballooned.
True. Like 2-0ing this series could be bad for his ego, especially when looking at potential opponents going forward. But so far, so good for CB Midnight, and it's going to be fun if they can keep this pressure up, keep this advantage that they have positive, and try and get just much more value.
Yeah, I wanna really point that out because you stated it in the draft. You said, this has to be pedal to the metal, very early game performance for CB Midnight if they want to have a chance to win. Do you think they've done enough so far in the first 8 minutes?
8 minutes, 5-0, and 2k lead. I think it's a pretty good start. Certainly, if they can turn this more, obviously, it's going to become much and much better. But for starters, I think that they did a pretty good job. Because realistically, when you look at how the gold is distributed as well, yes, LeBlanc has quite a lot of the gold, but it's not like the other lanes have been left behind. Tristana has an assist, the Trundle has a kill and an assist, and then Toblin as well has a kill and an assist. So all in all, the value has been distributed, I think, fairly between each lane.
Yep, and like you said, 3-0 onto Yune. Lost chapter is secured. No purchase of the Dark Seal yet for Yune, despite having those 3 kills. Just looking to be able to have that extra movement speed, has the Sorcerer's Boots, and so is going to be able to move around the map a lot quicker. Get priority in this lane, and then try to, navigate these side lanes a little bit more. Max Hydra, though, is now level 6, does have double buffs, and is looking to be able to go for a play up against Cusco. This could be difficult, though, as Cusco is going to go in. World Ender is ready. Let's see if they decide to pull the trigger. I guess that is not going to be the case. They're waiting for it, though.
They really want to pull this top lane play because 3 members are trying to collapse here. Oh.
And there it is. Cusco's going to be the one that will come through. Cusco can't do it. And Alice Snow is going to be able to pick up that kill. Gladiator coming in with some assistance. That's going to be the first kill of the game for the side of DAF. Gladiator is going to get rooted, and Yune maybe looking to be able to go in for a kill of their own. Not able to stop that, but hey, finally a kill on the board for Divine Ascension.
They had to pull quite a bit of attention towards that top lane for it to work out. 3 members and 2 ultimates plus an ignite, but it works out. You get a kill into the Aatrox, not the biggest kill because it wasn't a shutdown, but it at least opens up a bit of that potential battle that was becoming that top lane. And because of how big of a CS discrepancy the Aatrox was able to put pressure onto the Wukong, I think that this kill was a must-have. Now, Nocturne doesn't have paranoia for a couple for I think if I'm not wrong it's 2 minutes. So that means that there's a window now for the side of CB Midnight to try and get more objectives. They already got the dragon, so I'm expecting this Herald obviously, and then try and get a turret as soon as possible. But I think for the value that you committed, getting a kill is always pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it is 300 gold. You do stop, like you said, the aggression that Cusco was going for. But we got to look at mid lane again. Yune, though, 3-0-0 still with the, now with the Dark Seal, is going to be on the way to be able to pick up that Luden's Echo to just assassinate some of these lower health bar members. Mario Flames dehydrated. Even Alice Snow is going to potentially be a target of some damage there, deciding to go with the Divine Sunderer build, however, so a little bit tankier in that regard. You do have to worry, though. You do have to worry about Yune potentially just being able to take control of this game. And with the Rift Herald now secured from Riddy, it would be, I think, a decent choice to put the Rift Herald into the mid lane, but it does look like he is pathing towards bottom lane, looking to be
I
able
like
to
that.
utilize the sieging power from Daydream.
And that's the thing. I feel like that is the correct play. Oh, wait.
Okay, Mario Flames, however, going to be in trouble as we do
Daydream.
get the dive in. Daydream is going to be able to avoid the satchel, trying to be able to come forward, going to be able to get another rocket jump as he hydrated, going to be down to about 2/3 HP. Daydream not able to pick up a kill, but that is 3 summoner spells, 4/3 summoner spells.
This is a big issue though because they committed so much. Oh, paranoia top
Okay,
lane.
yeah, Paranoia is coming through, but it was enough for Luke Kurtzko to escape using that flash.
This does mean that they know that Nocturne has no chance of coming down here bot lane. We may see much more heavy push, but I feel like because of the trade that Daydream took, the fact that he has quite little health, they cannot force the play. And I was talking about the potential of the Herald. I think that the bot lane is the smartest one, particularly because you can 100% get the
Riddy,
turret with
however,
that play.
gonna see dehydrated at the blast cone. Not gonna be able to use the blast cone. Yune wants the kill, and Yune's gonna get it, but he might actually sacrifice his
He's
life
dead,
for the
I think.
cause. Is he gonna be able to escape? No, he won't. Shut down and 700 gold going over to Gladior. That's support from mid lane and an over greedy performance there from Yune.
That's way too much of an overcommitment for a support, a measly support. And I know people don't like that I talk like that to supports, but it's a mid lane that is 3-0 for just the karma. I feel like it's not a worth trade. And particularly, Echo is the one that collects the gold, so it's so much value onto your enemy laner for absolutely like pretty little. Like the Lang didn't even have the Dark Seal, so it's not like those stacks would matter even if you get the kill. Now, the blank does have the echo, the Ludens, so it's not like you did get a bit of gold off of that maybe was enough to collect the Ludens, but I feel like you have to really evaluate your cost efficiency in those kind of plays where is it really worth to go for that kind of aggressiveness, especially after Karma committed Flash.
I totally agree with that because not only that, you also denied the chance to go for an earlier Rift Herald play. Dragon is spawning relatively soon, and
Oh,
Shelly is dropped as Riddy is going to be down to a very low amount of HP, less than 400, but he will be able to escape. The Rift Herald will get its
I
obligatory
don't think
2
he actually
turret
got it.
plates. But
I
yeah,
don't
but
think
they
he
don't
got
get the turret.
plates.
They didn't!
Oh, that
Holy
is
crap!
so bad. I didn't actually know that you could stun it on spawn. Like not legitimately stun it, but on spawn you can stun it with echo time divergence. Oh,
Cusco,
he's dead.
World Ender, not quite enough. That's Cusco being able to, is gonna fall. Alice Snow is gonna pick up a kill. Clutch Karma
They're throwing
can
their
clutch out a
lead.
dredge line, as now we get to see if we'll see Yune be able to escape. He is gonna get feared. Hydra, though, is gonna potentially be in trouble, gonna be forced to flash away. Gladiator wants the kill. The Chrono Break is ready, and it's gonna be 1-for-1, but no kills, actually. Mass
Mask
Hydra
Hydra
now going
gonna
to
escape
potentially be
though.
in trouble, gonna be hit inside the ice pillar. Can't escape. Riddy will pick up their second kill of the game. So it's a 2-for-1 trade. A 3. Well, yeah, just a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Divine Ascension because Gladiator was executed.
The big problem with all of this is that you asked me, I think 5 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago, if I thought that this was enough for the side of CB Midnight to really allow further composition to spy. At the moment, I thought that was the case, but with how they've been fighting, with how the game has been going, this is a pretty awful situation to be in now. they are just they have the same lead that they had in that 6 minutes because of how much kills they have given away and how much gold they have essentially thrown. And with a comp like theirs that needs to keep having an advantage consistently, and that advantage spiking higher and higher, they cannot allow themselves to ever give up that lead. And now that we're into the mid game with a pretty close difference, as soon as those mythics are completed for the side of DAF, I can see the first team fights that we see, or at least the first fights with more than 2 or 3 members, be quite difficult for the side of CB Midnight unless they get a pretty big pick at the start.
Yune going to get the root onto
Risky.
Gladior. Chronobake is ready. Clutch Karma is in the area, but it would be a 2v2. As Ready is going to be able to give that blue buff over to Yune. Got Daydream once again just going up against Mario Flames. What was once a pretty decent lead for Daydream has now resulted in an even CS advantage in the bottom lane. But the chasm, the gold chasm, despite the shutdown going over to Gladior, is still very much present here for Yune, being able to have a massive CS advantage as well as those 4 kills. Let's see if they do decide to go in for a dive here. As we have Alice Snow coming in, it looks like they'll back away.
I don't think it would have been smart if they actually commit for that dive with knowing that there's 2 members and then not knowing where the echo was. So I feel like smart decision, disengage, get Harold, get Harold, Herbert actually, get Herbert.
Herbert the Herald?
And, yeah, Herbert the Herald, and then just leave and try and get more gold because you still need to spike a little bit heavily. And then on the bot lane point, because I think that Tristana was doing quite fine. I do think that Mario Times has been doing a pretty nice job keeping up in form. And then because of how many heavy trades Daydream took, where he lost quite a bit of health, I think he missed on the window of opportunity to try and get more plates for himself.
Definitely. Daydream not being able to pick up the tower, not being
no,
able
he
to pick
got
up those
baited.
turret plates, as he ends up getting baited, he will fall. Oh, maybe not. Buster Shot will be used. He's going to get hit by the direct hit of that Mega Inferno Bomb. Exhaust will be used, but it will not matter. Masked Hydra will pick up a kill. And that's going to be Daydream going down for the first time in this series.
He cannot get baited like that. That was a pretty aggressive jump with nobody close by and no vision at all, and he gets picked up. Oh, Mario Times.
Okay,
Ooh,
Mario
that
Flames
was
able to
so
use a
nice.
satchel charge pretty nicely there, but it won't be enough. The depth charge along with the bite from Riddy will pick up his 3rd kill of the game. He'll be on a killing spree.
Could be a turret. They have Herald, so maybe they can try and set it up just to get this turret as soon as possible. Trundle as well, one of the best turret takers in the game, essentially. So could it be the play that I think CB Midnight opts into? And yeah, he's trying to rush it, feels like.
He is going to try to rush it down here. He was in combat, so he's not able to spawn Herbert at that particular moment. So does still have the Rift Herald available. So
Still, the
interesting to
game
see here.
has been put into kind of the freezer in a way, right? Because the gold lead hasn't gone over 3,000 gold after everything that has happened. After we mentioned the 2K difference, now it's just a 3K difference. It's been staying like that for quite a while. It's going to be a Cloud Soul as well, so not the most high priority Drake in that situation. And that means that for the side of DAF, maybe the most beneficial, because that means that they will get more time to try and get scaling going.
Azael talks about it a lot when he casts. He says, the whole item is so much better than the sum of its parts. And if we look at it, yes, Cusco has an extra Coldfield's Warhammer. Hold that thought, though, as we do get a Paranoia going to be used on Riddy. Riddy's going to be forced to flash away. He's going to get knocked up by the Cyclone. He will not survive this one. And another overextension from the side of CB Midnight is going to give another kill over to Gladior, now with a 150 gold bounty. Clutch Karma now going to potentially be in trouble. Going to be able to use a dredge line to be able to get away, but it won't be enough. Alice Snow on a killing spree, 3-1-1.
It's on a killing spree. Alice Snow trying to impact a little bit more the map apart from just jumping onto the Aatrox, which I think is smart. Unit does collect the turret, so at least some gold going into the pockets, because with the kills that they got, it actually closed out the lead. Now it's back to where it started with the 3K difference. But this game is not looking that bright for CB Midnight. Like a lot of heavy outplay needs to happen in some of these fights to really turn out for what they really like. Because, like we're pointing out, scaling is not in their favor, or at least not heavily in their favor. They have a Tristana, but that's about it. And the other members from the side of DAF may be quite risky to fight against. Oh,
Hey, yeah,
are you
Daydream
sure
going
about
in
that?
once again. The paranoia is going to be used. Mass Hydra is going to be the target, though, of a
Oh, he
ton of
gets
damage
it.
from Riddy. And Riddy will be able to take that kill. Cusco, however, going to be in a 2v1. World Ender will be used to be able to get a little extra movement speed. Going to be able to get the knock up on the Gladiator. He'll
He
be able
gets
to get
it.
the kill on the Gladiator. And he makes it a 1-for-1.
That is a pretty good one for one that Cusco is able to pull off because I was expecting for him to completely die in that situation. Ends up trading kills, ends up saving himself for quite a bit. And with the kill that they got on Mask Hydra as well, that's a shutdown. They get the kill in the turret in the bot lane. I think they put down the Herald actually before taking down the turret, which means that they can still get another push, I feel. Yeah, the Herald is pushing
Doesn't
down.
Yeah, doesn't look like Herbert is going to get that and one opportunity.
Come
Unfortunately,
on,
though, they did just utilize it because I think they were running out of time. But regardless of that, being able to pick up those extra kills does make it about a 4,000 gold lead for CB Midnight. Shadow Flame. Big second items for both Cusco and Yume have been unlocked with the Shadow Flame as well as the Black Cleaver. You're going to be able to reduce that armor. You're going to be able to get that nice penetration as well, which is exactly what Yune needs in order to continue to deal tons of damage.
And I think typically we see the conversation between Shadow Flame and going for Void, right? Like how much value can you get and all that? Although wait a second, maybe we have a fight actually.
Yeah, we're scrapping again as Riddy's going to be able to get the smite onto the red
Ooh.
buff. Looks like they were able to get their reward. Mario Flames will drop the Mega Inferno Bomb for good measure. And it looks like they will be able to get away.
It's a red buff for absolutely nothing. So pretty good trade coming in from the side of CB Midnight. They secured a red buff and now they need to try and get it more value. Oh, Lord Cusco
Cusco,
needs to
World
be
End is going to
careful.
be used. Nice utilization of the clone, though. The entire game, Cusco has gone in with the Infernal Chains, and all Alice Snow has to do is drop that clone, and he is out of Infernal Chains range. That is a nice, like, good 1v1 knowledge there from Snow to be able to utilize that effectively as they just continue to be on that island. Snow's going to be able to get away just fine.
It's the eternal fight of the top laners. Nobody cares about what happens with them, but they will keep on brawling. And I can respect that. I just want to see more fights and more things happening. But what is kind of changing is the dynamic that we're seeing over with the rest of the laners because obviously with the blank having two items, you have to be a bit more careful about how you position and about what you try to find. But at the same time, because you have a 6 on your side and a Nocturne, you cannot over push because the 6 can just wave clear quite effectively, and also, if you miss position, Nocturne's Paranoia just comes in and can just enable an easy kill for the side of DAF. And I feel like that makes a pretty interesting interaction between both teams that maybe they don't want to really overcommit for certain things.
Wards and vision going to be very important here because no teleports on the side of Divine Ascension because we got to see Gladiator and Alice
That
Snow on the
is.
bottom side of the rift. There's not much that they can
Oh,
do. Mario Flames just get absolutely obliterated. There's that Shadow Flame damage along
is
with
this
that Lumen's
Baron?
Echo coming through.
Just
And
like
there's a
that?
teleport coming in from Cusco. Easy money
It
play.
is.
I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to bring this up because this is the point when not having teleport is going to be a problem. And immediately, as I was thinking it, we have CB Midnight picking up Baron 24 minutes in.
Like you're pointing out, precisely showcasing the issue of not having teleport in pro play, and I think much more, or pro play, not so much, but competitive play, right? The main issue that teleport brings with here, well, not only the fact that Baron fights or things in the other side of the map cannot happen, is that it makes you be reliant on winning your lane. Because you're running a combat summoner. You have to win lane. And you have to win the 1v1 matchup. If you cannot do that, whoever has teleport will always have the edge. Because they can be there when they are needed. You can't, unless you're already there. So it makes such a difficult dynamic to follow up on. Oh, at least no, he's fine. But this is the issue with teleport and why teleport is so prominent so consistently.
Oh
Ouch.
my god, Yune now. 3 stacks on that Dark Seal. Another needlessly large rod as a fight does begin inside the blue side blue
Oh,
side
such a
jungle.
good ulti.
Cyclone's gonna come through. Alisno's gonna be able to get away using the extra clone to be able to dash through. Riddy's gonna be in trouble, gonna be forced to flash away themselves. Dehydrated flashes forward to try to be able to get a Mantra Inner Flame. So many low
Come on,
members
Cusco.
on the side of DAF. Cusco wanted that pentakill. I saw it in his eyes, but he's not able to get it, and it looks like the dragon is going to be secured for no bloodshed.
This is a thing that I've always believed with Aatrox players. Ever since the Shy got that huge four-man pickup with his Q on Worlds, everyone wants to that huge highlight moment, and they get a kill still, so it's worth. But like you're pointing out, Cusco had it in his eyes, but he respected a little bit more. They still get a kill at Dragon, and they can still put pressure with this Baron.
Yeah, huge damage coming out from Yune right now. 4 stacks on that Dark Seal. Phantom Dancer also unlocked for Daydream, 173 CS. Not the most CS in the game. You're looking not quite at that, 8 CS, 7 CS a minute, but regardless, still going to be a 2-item Tristana pushing in towards your mid tier 2 tower. And with the assistance of the rest of the team, that is going to be the mid-tier 2 tower going down and the extra gold coming with it going into CB Midnight pockets.
And this is always what matters, really, because we talked about time frames to go for objectives. So,
Okay, Alisno cannot avoid the depth charge, and Yune will pick up 2 more stacks on that Dark Seal.
Yeah, it's a lot on potential itemization's time frames to try and play off the game. And this time around, they pick up Alice No, just as I was mentioning that, but it still works perfectly because now without the Wukong, you can push the lane. You're delaying item time collections to your advantage, and it's working out so greatly for you, Aatrox, Cusco. He's
Hey,
killing quite a
Cusco
lot.
might be able to do well here. He doesn't have a he
Oh,
doesn't have
the
a lot of
healing.
life steal, but he does have Eclipse to give him a little bit of relief. He'll go in with the Darkened Blade to be able to pick up a little bit more
Okay.
healing. He will eventually fall, but it looked cool.
The ultimate made it look like that was going to be better for the Aatrox. It certainly doesn't work out at the end, but I like the attempt. I like trying to survive with everything you've got and almost working at. And that, I don't think that still puts any dumper in the lead that right now the side of 7 Midnight has anyway. So it's not like I think that kill matters quite a lot. I think that if they kill June, though, that is going to be a huge hit for the side of 7 Midnight. So the LeBlanc needs to be careful.
Yeah, and we are running into a point where CB Midnight is going to reach that critical mass, Yune, with the 2 needlessly large rods and less than 1,200 gold away from being able to pick up that Rabadon's death cap. If you are able to keep the Dark Steel stacks, if you are able to get it to that Magi's, will have tons of damage. And with that 1,200 gold now in their pockets, Yune does have that Rabadon's death caps available, is looking to go back, and is looking to be able to pick that up with Baron spawning very, very soon, within the next 90 seconds.
That is a 3-item LeBlanc that is looking quite scary. And with Baron buff as well as Soul coming up quite soon, and I think for the time that we gave 7 Midnight with her comp, in the perfect moments to try and really close out the game with this fight, I think that it's now on DAF to get that, not Hail Mary play, but their value here and survive the game long enough so that they can actually try and turn it around.
We got Gladiator coming through here. We got Yune just waiting in the wings, can just assassinate whenever. There is a lot of poke play from Mario Flames and Dehydrated to be able to protect themselves and not go in for any sort of brush check. But Gladiator looking to be able to move forward, not going to be able to see much vision here. The vision game and the control of this topside jungle is really, really impressive here for the side of CB Midnight. They know that they are in an advantage state, and it is just a matter of time before they could potentially put this game into the winner's column for them. Baron spawning up in less than a minute, and the opportunity for them to be able to get that Cloud Soul, like you stated, TDS, is really on the menu as well, but it's only a Cloud Soul, right? Do they really need it?
It's a pretty nice objective to have when you're really far ahead. And I think the response is always the same. You'd rather have it than not have it. The only thing that I would say is that for this game, I think they shouldn't go for it. Oh,
Okay, we got the
they're
fight now
engaging
coming
onto
through as
this.
Mass Hydra's gonna go in, gonna be hit by the depth charge, gonna be knocked up, and Daydream's gonna be able to pick up the kill. They just don't have the damage, the wallets. Difference has just been too massive, and with Mask Hydra down for another 35 seconds, that is the indication that it is time for Baron, and Baron will be secured for the side of CB Midnight.
And Tristana didn't even use exhaust to stop the Nocturne from dealing any damage. Like that was just pure straight up damage coming in from the side of CB Midnight, and not enough from the side of DAF. So pretty hard for them to really try and go for a fight. And I think it gives them enough time to try and come to get this soul. Now, I don't think that you need to collect this soul. I actually think that you would be incentivized in giving it up just because trying to get Elder. Oh wait,
Okay, I guess Yuna's gonna try to go in though, going to be able to force use that clone to be able to get out of the way. Akusa's gonna flash forward, Dehydrated is the target, can't get hit by the Infernal Chains. Yune wants to go in, but he can't quite do it. That is a massive spell shield with that Malmortius. He's going to be able to escape just fine as Gladiator tries to go in. Riddy's going to get hit by the nearsightedness as the Paranoia is going to come through onto Cusco.
Oh,
Cusco's
no.
in trouble. He's going to be hit by the fear. Alice Snow is going to try to go in, but he can't get a
They
second hit
cannot
on that Cyclone. And that's 2 kills for the side of CB Midnight. They're looking for more as Clutch Kuzma trying to be able to
Really
flash forward.
doesn't
Does not get the dredge line under Dehydrated. A nice satchel from Mario Flames. Gladiator's going to try to escape. Dehydrated running for their lives is going to get hit by the Ice Pillar. And it's a 3-for-0 trade, making it potentially a 4-for-0 trade as Daydream is able to take down Mario Flames. CB Midnight might have just won the game.
They win the fight. They leave one member alive, but that is not enough. Although Daydream, you're alone here.
Daydream,
That is
exhaust
enough.
coming through, but he will get shut down. So, hey, a little bit of money going back into Gladiator's pockets.
Yeah, Daydream committing too hard for just a couple of wolves, kind of disrespectful. At the same time, he didn't know, but they still get the dragon. They still get the teamfight win. They can still push with their Baron buff, even though it is 32 minutes and they are still giving up some gold to some of the members that they shouldn't. In reality, they are so far ahead that I think they still have enough gas in them to be able to clean up the game. They cannot allow themselves to be picked off anymore, though. I think that any more gold that you give up at this point in the game can be game losing. So you need to be careful on the side of Super Midnight.
Well, I don't want to say that's all, folks, but it does look like the end is in sight. Speaking of nearsightedness, though, Cusco is going to be hit by the Paranoia, going to be hit by the Mega Inferno Bomb. 2 ultimates have no effect on Lord Cusco, who is literally the lord of this domain. With that Eclipse and with that Mortius will be just fine. Alice Snow's going to be able to dash away from the Ice Pillar with his clone. But that's Cusco, level 18, and just on the charge to get into the base of Divine Ascension.
They have everything in their power. The only thing that is lacking is that Tristana to be able to blow out turrets. But even without her, they just blew up that turret immediately. And there's nothing. Oh,
my
close.
word. Mario Flames is going to be down to less than 20% HP as the first inhibitor of the game goes down. Now looking to be able to go for inhibitor number 2. If Divine Ascension wants to fight, it will have to be at Nexus. Baron is gone. The Cloud Soul is remaining. Cusco does have World Ender. Yune does have Flash and Ignite. Riddy does not have Flash, as Alice Snow is going to try to go in onto Cusco, going to be able to get away from the Infernal Chains, and the rest of Divine Ascension is able to keep the rest of their base alive. But Gladiator looking to be able to go in a little bit further, wants to get a little bit more damage. Yune trying to go in, going to try to assassinate somebody, and does get dehydrated.
So
Extended outside of the base, and Divine Ascension is going to get punished for it. Mario Flames will get ignited. That's going to be a double kill for Yune. That's going to be the 3rd kill of the game going over for Riddy, as he's able to be 7-1 and 5. Lord Cusco in the 2v1, but the cavalry has arrived. There's Yune coming through. Mass Hydra's going to try to do what they can, going to pick up the clone. Unfortunately,
that doesn't
but
matter.
use their own clone to try to escape. Cusco's going to be able to take down Hydra, and Daydream will get the last kill of the game. That is your first series win in the VTS, and it goes to CB Midnight.
And we have the fastest game of the split with a pretty dominating game as well coming in the second one. for Seven Midnight. Really effective, really playing for what they drafted, and may not be the best instigator of this kind of composition. But if you're going to pick it, you have to play it in the way that you picked it up, and they did. So I really like that at least Seven Midnight committed to how they wanted to play, and they at the end delivered on it. Really nice play. Really played really great these two games in the Trundle. Yune on the LeBlanc, jumping from place to place, destroying people. Really like it. And I think Daydream and Clutch Karma quite heavily as shown in the bot lane. Like they didn't really die. They didn't won a lot in the bot side, but at the same time they didn't die, which I think is so impactful to have when your AD carry can output damage and don't give away any random kills.
100%. I mean, I think that is really effective there in the bottom lane because it is a 2v2 situation. It's not about leaving the lane with a kill advantage. It's about leaving the game with, or leaving the lane with a gold advantage.
Yeah.
And Daydream not giving up a ton of kill or a ton of deaths. Yes, he overextended a couple of times, ended up going 4-2-4. But the fact that Mario Flames wasn't able to get a lead with that Ziggs is definitely the most impactful thing there. Ended up with a Leandry's and a Zhonya's Hourglass, not being able to unlock that Void Staff and not accelerating the pace of the game by giving more gold over to Mario Flames, who performed very well, I would say, on the Ziggs in terms of damage. Just not being able to stay alive is definitely indicative of the fact that you just weren't able to get that gold onto your bottom lane carry. It doesn't matter who that is. If it's a Seraphine, if it's a Renekton, if it's a Yasuo, if it's a Tristana, if it's a Ziggs, it doesn't matter. If your bottom lane carry doesn't get gold, it's not going to be a fun game for sure, and you have to go to other lanes. Regardless of that, though, I want to shout out, of course, as we end this show, I want to shout out both teams for coming out and enjoying the VTS, and allowing us to cast their game for this split. Any final thoughts, TDS?
I just got insulted in chat. I don't think I have the energy for it. But no, in reality, I think that both teams playing really nicely, 100%. They did a pretty good job at trying to go for certain plays. Like even DEF losing those two games 2-0 is never the kind of score that you want to see. They still tried to go for things. Like they didn't take it. Like they actually tried to go to get back into CB Midnight and try and get something back when they were behind. So I respect it, and I feel like if they can set up their situation better, because they did also play with a sub. I think that if they can set up their situation better and get a little bit more practice together as a team, I think that this could be a team that could be interesting enough to watch. And the season is long. It's going to be quite a few matches that we're going to get the chance to see. And as long as you enter the top four, we may have a situation like GB last split. They entered in the fourth spot and they were able to get to the grand final. So there's always a chance. As long as you mean it, you practice, and you can try and showcase yourself in the games, you can try and get to that playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say it once again. For some reason, I just have trouble with pronouns. I don't know what it is. Thank you again. If I say your pronoun incorrectly, message me. If I say your name incorrectly, message me. I
We're
do
just human.
apologize. Very, very much apologize. Forgive me. Daydream, of course. She, her. Apologies. But with that being said, though, congratulations again to the CB Midnight squad. They played a phenomenal game, a phenomenal series, being able to take down Divine Ascension Frostbite, and will be able to pick up their first win here in the VTS. Currently undefeated in the VTS. So who knows what week 2 is going to be able to provide. But regardless of that, I think that is going to be it for both Moose and TDS. If you guys enjoyed the content that you guys saw, please feel free to follow us on our Twitter channels. You follow me at Moosecast. You can follow TDS at TDScast.
Yep. TDS
Perfect.
cast, like it's down here, so perfect.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. Thank you guys all so much for enjoying us. We're going to toss it back over to the analyst desk to close out the show. See you guys later.
Wow, what a series coming out, a very statement sort of series from CB Midnight here, showcasing just what their team is capable of. But even despite some doubts from me, the team really came in and they performed exceptionally well today. And just great map play, and on the day they were just better players overall. I think we can agree on just sometimes you're the better player.
Yeah, and it really was a shame to see Divine Ascension like claw their way back into this game, only to lose it to just a stray pick and then some miscoordinated dives. Especially since I really did like the composition they put together in a vacuum. I always do like to see sort of an artillery dive composition. Especially since like the tempo comp that CBM drafted in theory can fall off against what they have. But yeah, the story of this game, of course, CBM generates some leads that maybe they shouldn't be able to. Divine Ascension claws their way back a little bit with positive matchups. Very happy to see the revenge of their top laner with the Wukong counterpick. And of course, then losing it from the stable game, which was unfortunate to see. Again, obviously, congratulations to CBM. And I do think that this Divine Ascension roster absolutely has some potential with the way they were able to get themselves back to a playable game state from how that game began.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about MVP. So there will be a poll in chat for who is the MVP of the series. Lord Kuzco, Riddy in the jungle, French Caps in the mid lane. Holy heck, it's Daydream on AD carry, or Clutch Karma. I don't think they played Karma. I don't think they actually played that champion, but the Karma was on the dive comp, right? The Karma was on the
Yep.
Ziggs team. That was the comp I feel was so interesting, and I like what you brought up there in that this they had the pieces
Mhm.
of what could have been an exceptionally good comp, but just over and over they were sort of spelling their own doom and just misplaying or mispositioning or mishandling a dive that uh really should have handled it. But looking at some other things with that composition, just Kevbo, what have you got? Have you got anything you would like to add? I'm I'm looking at my notes here, and they're making nothing.
I just like that second game. I think it's really hard to put a label on like how much of it was draft and how much of it was just. I think a lot of really pop off performances from the solo winners of CBM. Top lane Cusco absolutely phenomenal in both games. Second game, LeBlanc for their mid laner. That was disgusting. Echo did not get to play the game. It is a hard one, for sure. But really, it just depends on. I think we said it as soon as we jumped into the other draft. It depends on how well the Wukong can set up team fights, and they just weren't able to.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Wukong.
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, you can go. You're
Okay,
the
okay.
analyst here. I'm a
Unfortunately, the Wukong pulled away too often by just how gargantuan Aatrox got. I think it's very easy to have your pieces become miscoordinated when you're feeling this much pressure from the pick potential of LeBlanc, of Tristana, of Nautilus. And I wouldn't be surprised if Divine Ascension felt that at no point in the game they were even. So yeah, I don't obviously it's easy for the pressure to get to you. It is what it is.
Yeah. You can't expect everybody to stay calm. I actually believe we are gonna get an interview here. We
Oh,
rarely we don't often do regular season interviews, but I suppose we can start doing them if we want to become more professional. We can sort of get a little bit of insight from the minds of CB Midnight. I believe we're gonna be getting Daydream herself on the broadcast. once production gets that set up. But until then, it's like we do have the MVP vote still going. If you've not voted yet, please put your vote down in. I think that Aatrox. We were joking a little bit about the build for the Aatrox. He was going Cyrilda's in conjunction with the Black Cleaver, which is just there's negative synergy there, but it does not matter. It did not matter at that point in the game for our good friend Aatrox. He was unbelievably far ahead. Oh man, I'm just disappointed that that comp didn't work out. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was such a cool comp, and just not good, not very well constructed coordination.
Oh, I mean, I love to see artillery dive like when it works, right? It's one of the coolest drafts to see. Like it's a window for Xerath to come out. I love windows for Xerath to come out, right? So, yeah, it's. I think it also does go to show like how effective a tempo strategy can be in amateur play when people aren't practicing like 24/7. When on the day, like any player can have like a random mechanical error that a champion like LeBlanc or Aatrox or Tristana can easily take advantage of. And I've really started to appreciate a lot more lately, like the strength of aggro, even going up to the top of amateur play. Right?
Yeah, aggro is just quite powerful. We're in a very aggressive sort of meta again. I think it's a lot easier to execute aggressive comps, especially when you're just a stronger team right now.
Mhm.
And I believe, oh sorry, I'm getting something for the producer here. I believe that is well, we're gonna go. Should we go to a break? We probably should go to a break to get a daydream set
Okay.
up. So
Leave,
we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll have an interview with CB Midnight, the victorious CB Midnight daydream. We'll hear from her and how she felt in that game, especially the first game with the Samira going popping off in the worst way. It just getting fed free kills, and we'll see how that how it's feeling. So we'll see you after a quick break. Welcome back, everybody. And I don't know if there's going to be some kind of associated text to say that we have our interview guest. We'll start integrating that probably once Gurf gets back. Gurf enjoying a nice vacation, so some of the extra production stuff is just going to be put on hold. But we do have a guest here, as stated before the break. We have the victorious Daydream from CB Midnight. So how are you feeling after that game? How is the sort of the vibe of the team going after that? Did you sort of expect it to be as, I don't want to say easy, but as
I mean, I'd say
simple
I'd
as it
say I'd say
was?
easy. I would
Okay, we'll say
definitely
easy
easy.
then. Did you
We'll
expect it to
say
be that
easy.
easy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They weren't very good. I think like after game 1 draft, our team sort of just realized that we were just gonna be done by 10. So we're just chilling. We're having a good time. My jungler and my supports went to the bar or something. They're chilling. Everyone's happy.
Yeah, everyone's happy. Celebrate with some drinks. So in the first game, and we talked about a little bit about this in the break, but I want to bring it back up because I do think it's an interesting topic here because we were confused about the Samira pick in game 1. We weren't necessarily sure how it played into the composition, and when we were looking at like things to criticize about how your team approached that game, one of the few things we could come up with was the Samira pick here doesn't make sense. And then you got a quadra kill. So you suddenly became a carry, but if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't even the intention behind the Samira pick. So can you give us a little bit of insight into how you how you came to the Samira pick in that specific angle?
I mean, they what was it? They B1 Seraphine and they B2'd Ornn, and we figured we're probably just gonna kill them with Samira. I mean, they B2'd Ornn, so we got the R3 Fiora, which is pretty much game over already. And
Mhm.
then at that point, I R4, we were just like, we just lock Samira, and I either get ahead or worst case scenario, they can never engage on us in the 4-1 because all of their go buttons don't work.
Yeah, no, I mean their go buttons were definitely falling apart there. And if either of you have a question you want to ask Daydream, feel free to jump in and interrupt me here. I'm just trying to think of things here. In the next game, we saw the Tristana get brought out, and there was your team actually ended up getting frozen out a little bit towards the mid game there, just in terms of like the compared to the speed of the first game and how you ended up closing the second game out. There was a period in the mid game where your team was just sort of like not necessarily in control there, and there were plenty of times I saw you jump in on the Ziggs, just not able to secure that kill. So, how is your team approaching that sort of stalemate there when you think, or perhaps you think you should be further ahead than you are, and you're just not able to get anything? How do you approach that sort of game state?
Yeah, I mean, I think our team sort of played the mid lane, the not the mid lane, the mid game like really poorly. I think with our comp in the lead we got early, like we should just like win. But I think that's sort of just one of the things that comes with like starting, a new team that's just like we've scrimmed like once and we also didn't have our starting mid laner. Stuff is a little hectic. It's really thankful to the schedule to like have our first games be against the bad teams because gives us some time to like, get ready, grow as a team, sort of become good. I mean, obviously I'm happy we 2-0'd, but like there's so much from that series that we can work on. I mean, I'm sure Cass noticed it too, but yeah, I mean, oh yeah, we messed up.
Yeah, there was definitely some fumbles there. Quinn, Kevbo, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I guess in staying on the game 2 mid game, I guess I have to ask, like, given that your team faltered for a moment and given your opinion on your opposition, right? Um, did you ever at any point, my goodness, did you at any point become concerned about like the scaling of your comp? Like, what was that ever like something you were talking about? Like, if we screw up one more time, like the enemy can just start to take over team fights, or like were you reasonably confident that despite those missteps, you would just find some way to outplay or pick them off?
I mean, their team drafted an artillery dive comp against a team that you don't really have anyone to dive on. I don't think we were ever scared. I mean,
Yeah, no,
it's like
we
A,
saw
they're
the
bad,
knocked.
and B, they can't draft. So it's like
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
killing.
saw the Nocturne in that last fight. Sorry to interrupt you. We saw the Nocturne in that last fight, ulti and then dive onto Aatrox, and I think all of us in the green room were just confused. And we are like, okay, maybe something went wrong here. Something's wrong. I can feel it. It's not feeling good. But we do have the MVP ready. So I didn't actually see the conclusion of the vote, so I'm gonna be as surprised as everyone else is. Braku, if you could bring up the MVP, who could it be? All right. I'm waiting for it to show up on stream so I can. All right, it's Cusco. Hey, there it is.
Yay!
Fiola and the Aatrox, particularly the Aatrox, a very, very strong performance. Do you have some words you want to say about your top laner? You want to hype him up a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I met the dude like last week, and he is like unironically just built different. I don't know. He just, he just I don't know him very well. He's a cool dude, and he's also like absolutely cracked on the rift. I don't know what else to say. But
Yeah, some
yeah,
excellent performances there, like decimating the Fiora Ornn matchup, somehow coming out like not behind in Aatrox Wukong.
yeah.
Very
I mean,
impressive
top
performance
cap.
That
today.
was pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
I mean, unironic top cap. Like I'm like talking shit, but like in my top side of the map really was the side that actually did anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right. You know, sometimes you just get put into the backpack, and that is okay. And as we pull it back to the desk, before we let you go, we're going to talk just a little bit about your matchup next week into the most dangerous team, the dark horses of Group A, the Mingos.
Oh, the
You
Mingos.
said that you're up against the easy teams. The Mingos definitely look like an easier team. Is that going to be changing your mindset in approaching prep, or are you going to treat them as seriously as you'd treat any other team?
I mean, I feel like when you're this early into a split, you sort of just have to focus on like your own team and your own development. Because if you're trying to like get good enough to beat like some of the actual good teams in this league, and I think like this league has like good teams like Glacial and then those Shining Light guys. Like if you ever want to like level up to the point where we can like have a chance against them in playoffs, you got to be like working on ourselves. However, I will say that their captain, DM Dark Captain, um, I mean, for a reschedule too, but part of the conversation involved the legalization of all chat banter. And ever since I saw that screenshot, I have never been more excited for a game of League of Legends in my life.
Let's go. Let's go. The banter's gonna be good. I sure hope it's gonna be good. I love me some spice. I love me some good memes, and I hope it's gonna be a good series. Although odds are we won't have your team on the broadcast 2 weeks in a row, unless it's like last split where there was only one team whoever scheduled at default time, so they were on like every single week. So
Yeah, we're playing Tuesday at 9. I don't if there's a POV stream, we'll probably like drop it in the server or something. But
yeah, make
other
sure
than that,
you share that with the community so they can enjoy the hot memes and the banter. And we'll probably talk about that on the podcast next week as well. So, but you will be free to go. Any final shout outs you want to give or any final words you want to say, Daydream, while we have you here?
yeah, always shout out to my team, and then shout out to everyone I say on the Twitch link who supported me. I love you all, and another easy set for Daydream.
Yeah, another easy set. It's that easy, baby. It's when you're that good, when you're that cracked, every win is a game. Every game is a win. They're the same thing. All right. Thank you for coming on, Daydream, and you have a good evening.
Here comes the Daydream copy pasta again.
Yeah, can we get some more copy pasta, please? Thank you. All right. Well, with that said, I believe that is all we have here for you all this evening. Yeah, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to follow the stream, follow the Twitch, follow the Twitter as well to get more information on when streams are, who's on the broadcast, and what teams you can be expecting to see on the Rift. If you also want to get on the action yourself, type !Discord to get a link to the Discord. Hopefully it's working today. It was not working yesterday, but you can get in on the ground floor and get in on the action yourself. If you're a solo player, you can play in the draft leagues. If you have a pre-made, you can play in the pre-made leagues as well. There are multiple different types of levels of leagues, all the way from IBS up to the master tier, which we showcase to you today. So definitely, if you want to get on some amateur League of Legends and Valorant action, make sure you join the Discord, and you can get in contact with that. Of course, that's excellent. So I do want to say, thank you both, my wonderful co-desks. So Quinn, where can we see you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Quintic. On Twitter, it's all Quintic. Everything is Quintic. YouTube,
Everything is Quintic, even
Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, TTV Quintic. You can find like why not? There's short guides there. So,
All right.
I'd like to say that I've had a lovely time on the desk. Thank you for making my first day just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all.
Awesome. Kevbo, where can we expect to see you as well?
Well, I will be on Wednesday nights, back with Victoris doing color casting for the Victoris Amateur Series, our other pre-made league. Wednesday nights, a lot of teams, a lot to keep up with there, lots of fun, lots of spice. We saw like 380 carries in the same team comp in week 1, so excited to see some more spice there. And of course, podcasts, links in the description. Twitch.tv/KevBoLaw. I stream once every 6 months.
Let's go.
And the Twitter, send us your content ideas. Seriously, if you have any content ideas. I have no interaction on my Twitter. There's literally 3 posts, and it's pretty much all about Victoris. So, yeah, let us know if there's anything you want us to do. I'm excited, and of course, as always, make sure to respect Blitzcrank.
Yeah, let's see
That is
some
all.
crank. Let's see some crank. Let's see which team's gonna pick out the crank. We're waiting for it. We're
None of them. The
waiting
answer is none of them because
to
they're
see
all
some good. They're all
disrespectful
cowards.
heathens.
They're
They're all
cowards.
disrespectful, cowardly heathens. Okay.
You hear that? Every support in the VTS, you are cowards. We expect some blitzcrank. I hope to see. Hope that's a call to action there. We'll get some great blitzcrank content for you, Kevbo. But if you wanna, for some reason, if you want to see more of me, you can follow me on Twitter. I sometimes post things. Most of the time, I just retweet dumb things and things that I think are funny, which are typically the same thing. But I am also a player in VAD, so when that properly starts up, you can see me on the Rift, embarrassing myself on Jarvan, in the jungle. So that'll be fun. Quinn, you're in the VRD too. You're in the VRD, aren't you?
Yeah, I queued as Phil. I've been assigned jungle.
Ah,
I busted
you're
out the Tarek jungle in exhibitions.
you're in the bone zone. It's
Yeah, we're gonna see. I said I have a
Having
brain and no
fun.
hands. This is gonna give me hands. So
Yeah, we're having fun out there. That's all the draft leagues are about. And of course, you can the draft leagues actually aren't going to start up streams until there's still another week of exhibitions, but those will be starting up in a couple of weeks. And of course, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you will have all of your regular pre-made leagues here on the stream. So, once again, thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next week. Have a wonderful weekend and get some rest, everyone.